Greetings and welcome to GatherVerse Men's Health Summit 2025. We're coming off the heels of a very successful series of health summits this year thus far, with the extraordinary Women's Health Summit that we were able to hold in spring. At GatherVerse, we meet at this intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, and health at the intersection of technology is one of our most important focuses. We've had extraordinary people from around the world that we sojourn and journey with. And when we talk about the subject of health, it's perhaps one of the most unexplored areas and phases of life and nature that we know of or don't know of. With GatherVerse, we have a focus for humanity first standards of education and accessibility and community development and safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, trust, and more. This is our 35th global gathering that we've been afforded to have. We're coming off the heels of a major extraordinary series of GatherVerse Tech for Humanity. Transmetropolitan, transcontinental, we were able to assemble people from around the world to explore what does the current and future state of technology look like when it comes to machines, hardware, software, but moreover, the impact that it will have on humanity. We welcome everyone that's come to assemble with us at GatherVerse.live and the various social streams that we're broadcasting and would be broadcasting during these segments. When we think about health, not just men's health, but women's health, but we think about health. What is the impact mentally of artificial intelligence now that we're coming to a better understanding of what it is that we're engaging with? What are the benefits of technology such as spatial computing and spatial intelligence in new environments and unexplored phenomena that we've never been in? From the physical layer to the virtual layer, the material layer that we call it, to this extension of reality itself, what does that mean when it comes to the human psyche? What does that mean for human factors? What does that mean when we start talking about the perceptual sciences of it all and cognitive filtering and understanding how these technologies will and have already impacted our lives? We're on such a major precipice of innovation at such a hyperscale that it was once posed that what happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? At GatherVerse, the fundamental need for human preservation of expression is needed now more than ever. To be able to share with one another and to be able to have a better understanding from various lens perspectives on what technology that these individuals, you, who have come to join with us from around the world, what is your impact when it comes to technology, and how has it affected your health? Negatively, affirmatively, positively, with gain, or perhaps even decline? At GatherVerse, we had a rather curiosity. What does this mean when we start talking about the life state of health? Typically, there's 29 different medical departments that make up a hospital in one organization. And you're dealing with the human body itself, and we have doctors that are practicing and practition. Now, I hope that we know and hope that we've been brought to the appreciation that these technologies that we innovate can ultimately never replace humans. The relationship between the doctor, the practitioner, if you will, whether it's study of Eastern and Western medicine, can never truly replace that which what a human can actually do. As artificial intelligence, as capable as it is, and capable as it's becoming, even at a PhD level mind, if you will, or neural network of artificial intelligentsia, it will never be able to supersede that which we've had since the beginning, that we've known of, if you will, the human code. And it's of that code, that DNA that's been passed down through the ages and generations itself, the persistent preservation of these bodies, if you will, and the unexplored phenomena and the unexplored scientific discovery of not just what we see in a macrocosm of the universe, but in the microcosm of these bodies. Today, we talk about men's health, but I suspect, as we did at the Women's Health Summit, that we'll also be exploring the women's health spectrum. There's never been more of an important time to have these discussions. Because now that technology is finding even more of a deeper chasm within the fundamental beddings of medical discovery, medical development, what we innovate today may meet us in the surgical theater tomorrow, may meet us on the training grounds in the health arena, unlike anything we've ever known. And I always advocate that we, as humans, if you will, stay ahead of technology rather behind it. And this is why we assemble, for this reason and more, to have a deeper sense of a better understanding that's peer expressed is something that machines can never give us. Real-time intelligence with a heartbeat. We'll take a moment to pay our bills with our good friends at Pico, who are our gracious sponsors of today's summit. We have 2 days to gather and a little bit of time to do this, and we have an extraordinary roundtable discussion that we're about to launch with several voices ahead of it and behind it. May our gather be well.
Hello and greetings. Welcome to the first Roundtable Panel, GatherVerse Men's Health Summit 2025. And by the way, happy Men's Day to every man out here, anyone who is watching. Happy Men's Day to you. And so with me, we're going to talk about the current and future state of men's health in the modern era of emerging technologies. We have assembled a group of leaders who are going to help us demystify this topic. And we encourage you as our audience, please feel free to engage. And with that said, I will be your moderator for today, Link Out, the communications director for GatherVerse. And I want to really bring my panelists on stage. I want them to tell us who they are briefly and what they do, and then we can kick off. I will begin with you, Milo. I will begin there and we will go right over there, and then we will conclude the introductions with you, Caitlin. Milo, please take it off.
Thank you so much. Can you hear my audio okay?
Yes, perfect.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning, day, afternoon, evening, depending on when you're joining us. My name is Mai Liu, and I am an organizational psychologist. Former career was a CPA. And so as I'm speaking to you today, I'm really excited to share the context of men's health. I identify as a woman, but the context I'm sharing is in the context of the workspace. So how do we show up at work because of the intersection of your health, specifically your mental health, your well-being, and how that intersects in work environments, which is the domain of knowledge that I come into as an organizational psychologist.
Yes.
I've been an executive in HR for many years, have coached hundreds of people over my career, and I currently serve today as our Chief Impact Officer of my own company,
Yes.
LifeSpark Labs. Thank you so
Wow.
much. I'm excited to talk today.
We are also excited to hear from you. That's quite a wealth of experience. We're ready to learn. Nate, over to you. Please tell us who you are briefly. Your mic, please unmute. We can't hear you. All
Can you hear me
right.
now?
Yes.
All right. My name is Nathan Watata. I am currently a CrossFit trainer, a gym owner, powerlifting trainer as well, and I am a strength and conditioning coach for a high school football team. I not only see dozens of clients, I also coach and train classes, and really, just really my focus is on functional fitness, not necessarily about growing big or trying to lift a lot of weights or following the image, so to speak. I just finished a session with a group in Oakland, California, where I reside at, 100 Black Men, 100 Black Women organization, really with the focus of being out in the community and showing them the proper way of, improving their lifestyle and, creating new habits and not feeling that anyone is left behind, so to speak, especially with my involvement with I like dealing with the youth, especially that age where it can be very tricky to navigate the teens and older adults as well. So and then also I competed in the qualify for the CrossFit Games, so I also know what it's like to say you're going to do a thing, but then also have your mind go to a whole different level you can't fathom even existed of of strain at the highest level, that adapting to those who are also don't know that they don't know and building from that. That's where I'm at.
Absolutely. We're very happy to have you here, and we can't wait to hear from you. And Wish, nice to see you again. Please tell us who you are briefly.
Sure. I'm a tech CEO. I work with AI and emerging technologies to help create a better world. I'm also a mixed martial arts instructor, and I work with kids to teach them self-defense and critical awareness.
We're happy to have you once again. Jasper, over to you, and it's also happy to see you once again.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Jasper. I'm co-founder of Train for Good, where we're not only supporting you to be healthier, but while you're taking care of your health, you're also supporting struggling communities. So we try to make a for-profit charity focused around fitness and health. And what we're mainly focusing on is basically taking where you are and basically help you build that habit where you can train and take care of your health at any time, anywhere, to make it simple and easy, and simply throw your excuses in the trash can.
Yes, fantastic. We're very happy to have you here with us. And over to you, Caitlin. Nice to see you again.
Nice to be here, and wow, I'm completing this circle of our roundtable. I founded MindWise 10 years ago. It's a consultancy focused on innovation and imagination with technology. That was after a background teaching for over a decade, full-time in middle school and high school. And I moved all over the world. I had parents in the foreign service, so I was teaching in the US and Belgium and Switzerland. And at the same time, I coached basketball and cross country. So talking about motivation and human dynamics. And now I'm also teaching at places like Stanford and the University of Oregon as I teach digital well-being. ways to prioritize well-being as a layer stack of our physical first, and then layer on with technology as we see fit, continuing to go back to the somatics and the body sense and the mindset practices that let us connect our attention with our intention. So it's really good to be here.
It's nice to have you. We love educators and we respect everything that they do for the community, and we respect you all. Thank you for joining us. So can we kick off? Is it time? All right, let's get started. When you think about emerging technologies, and as Christopher did an incredible introduction, and he asked, what does it mean to have men's health in this era of emerging technologies? And we're just going to dive deeper into that. I'm thinking about how are emerging technologies changing the way men see and take care of their well-being. I'm going to begin with a gentleman, and over to you, Wish. Tell us, how are emerging technologies changing the way men see and take care of their well-being?
I think the first one probably is it's bringing more awareness to our health issues, the specific data points like how well our sleep is, how well our diet is, and without that we really can't do a whole lot. It's just a guesswork without that kind of stuff. So I think technology is bringing more of that forefront into our minds, and once we have that, then we can control it a lot better. I can go on and on if you want.
Yes, please. You can just start something as they come to you, Jasper, as well, and then over to you, Nate.
Yes, I think as Wish said, that it brings more awareness, because usually if we are not sick, we just walk around and are like, I'm fine. There cannot be anything wrong. But as soon as maybe we can track how our health is throughout the days, weeks, and months, then it definitely makes a difference. I would say probably one thing that can be sometimes it can be maybe a little bit demotivating, because sometimes the technology not is 100% accurate. But there you just have to bear in mind that it's not so much what the number shows; it's just more the trajectory of the number. But actually, what I find interesting is that usually when we have these tracking, is that we usually put it into like these boxes that, okay, you may be below average, or you average and above average. And I actually find myself, I quite often ask people who both provide these technologies and surveys that you can do, ask them, what is actually the average person in your survey? So if I land in average, what is that compared up against? Because if it's compared up against people with already bad health, then it's not good for me to be average anymore, because then my health is not good. Then I must be above average to just have a normal, actually proper health in some way. So it looks like you are just to make it to be healthy, you have to be some super athlete, more or less. It looks like.
Definitely. Caitlin, I'll be coming to you, but I want to hear from you, Nate, briefly. What do you have to add to that as a man?
Sorry. Let me know if there's any background noise so I can move around someplace else. Anyway, to answer your question, one of the things that I make it a point to have my clients do is to I connect them with the applications, making them more aware of, for example, I'll just say like SugarWOD and Beyond the Whiteboard, just applications, and holding the accountability with them, not only in our sessions, but then also making sure that they're logged in and making sure that they're putting the specific numbers for whatever our goals are or what we're trying to accomplish for the time being. So I think also just the simple things, getting used to applications and how that works, then also being aware of, you have things such as cold plunges. You have in gyms nowadays, you can walk in and can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear
you. You have so many people who, for example, when I take the kids to showing them the purpose of recovery and rehabilitation. All right, because bodies get beaten up in football, so we go to a gym and they're completely unaware of things like the cold plunge and how to use the sauna and knowing the settings. But they have someone there who can show them, hey, you can put these things in your application. You can put the feedback in. It can come back to you, and this is what you're looking at, as opposed to guesstimating what these particular things that I do and what the responses will be. You have actually something definitive and more accurate to give you feedback on that. So I guess what I'm saying in essence is, the applications out there, making them more aware of how to use applications and interacting with those things to make it not seem as if they're in the wilderness or the woods, and holding their hand, so to speak, in that accountability with those type of things.
And definitely, I believe applications is just bringing a new level of taking care of ourselves. And Caitlin, the way I see you nodding, I feel like you have something to say. Do you want to say something to that?
I do. Yes, and I'm thinking about the word emerging with emerging tech, and this idea of agency, accountability, just like Nate was saying, and then a layer of discovery where I feel like right now self-discipline can become self-discovery with emerging tech. And one of my favorite passions is to study the emotions of wonder and awe, and what puts us in a state of, being immersed so much that we lose that attachment to one single story. We can drop into possibility, we can grow, to use more of a psychology word, we can let go of limiting beliefs. And I find more people now with emerging tech asking, not only what do I want to achieve, but who do I want to be, and how can I actualize that? And so I really love this idea of spatial computing and a lot of different emerging tech giving people better access to states of freedom and feeling their body in different ways, and also connecting back again to that internal sense of mattering, because we have rising suicide rates, we have rising problems with mental health, and I keep looking at how can tech be that bridge to better connection.
Definitely, that's a very, very interesting perspective. And coming to spatial computing, I'm going to touch on that, but let's just shift gears for a while, and I'm coming to you, Milo. What I meant really searching for when they turn to technology for wellness, and how can their needs be met? And anyone can chime in and start, but Milo, go on.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Lou is my last name, so you can just call me Lynn.
Okay.
So what I think is really exciting about what Caitlin shared earlier is, and to answer this question, is what we're looking for when we turn to technologies is almost providing data and having it be informed decision making. And so what I mean by that is when we're looking to technology, we get to suspend what's practical. So you can think about it from the context of like, can I explore myself in, for example, like careers that I never thought I could before? Can I imagine myself in a gaming world that I, can suspend gravity, can suspend like my current environment to feel things in a different way? And this is actually helpful from the context of psychology, because we as humans are poor at the perspective of prospection. So like when we try to predict what's going to happen to us in the future, we're not the best at that as humans. And so we often will think emotions are going to be more intense than they actually will be, or they're going to be longer in duration than they actually will be. And so these are technologies are a way for people to be able to understand, if I go down this path, what might happen? And let's play that out. Let's try that out. And using, data and, being able to use all of the amazing generative technologies that are out there to kind of predict and show an example of what this could look like. So we get to try on different roles, experiences, decisions that we never could have before without, the advances in technology. And I think what we're seeing men look for in these technologies is being able to get actionable answers, not just like vague advice or like being squishy, fluffy, but like, okay, if I know this about myself now, I've tried on this experience. I've seen this data. I've seen this wearable tell me this thing. What am I supposed to do about it?
Yeah.
And really, how do I change my lifestyle and build that into habit? And so doing that in a way that feels safe, where they can be vulnerable and they can have a private conversation, is really kind of like the first starting point of a safe place to explore, learn about myself, and then turn that into action.
Oh, definitely. That was a very, very in-depth look at it. And, I also want to shift gears a little bit when it comes to even prediction, right? Predicting our health. I think AI can really do a good job with that. But let's just bridge another gap and go to another sector that is across cultures and generations. What do men most often overlook about health in this digital world? Jesper, I'm coming to you, and Nate. Right. What do men overlook? What do you personally overlook?
The simplicity of it, I think, that's oftentimes overlooked. That you don't have to treat it or go about health alone and treat it as if you're still in the Stone Age with that. And I can say that from personal experience. Believe it or not, even though I'm a trainer, I have a trainer as well. I have to be accountable. I'm accountable to someone as far as the things that I log in and things. It's weird. It's kind of like a mechanic having faith, not working on their car and just having faith or trust in that mechanic to work on their car, right? It's of one mind, that type of thing. So anything I say or do is relatable because of the personal experiences that I've had. So I think the only one word I could think about is just this negation of the simplicity of it and just giving it a try and knowing that this is where things are going and when things can be, as Lou had mentioned, logged in, and you have the data and you see from that first experience, hey, this really does work. More than likely, that tends to them, being very satisfied and content with that experience and telling others as well. And it's not really about, per se, the sale or finally committing to it. It's just really, how do you feel? And that energy expands to others saying, oh, well, if that was your experience, let me experience it. Let me try that as well. So the simplicity of it.
The simplicity of it. Jesper, and we should tell us what do men often overlook all over the cultures in the world, and briefly tell us, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, actually, to also double down on what Nate is saying about the simplicity, let me tell a story about a guy called Michael that I met one time. And he asked me how he could start training because he had tried to go to the gym a few times, but then he stopped because then he didn't have time due to work and so on. And then I just simply asked him, do you know what is a push-up? And then he looked strange at me like, what do you mean? Yeah, I say, yeah, I mean, you have plenty of time to do 5 push-ups, right? I mean, you just wake up, it takes 5 seconds. You have 5 seconds to do it. It doesn't get in way for work or anything. And he is still super confused about, okay, what are you talking about? Where are you getting at? But what actually happened is that in that moment, I got him to do just 10 push-ups on the ground. But then in the following months, every day, he started just implementing, just doing 5 push-ups the moment he woke up. Then all of a sudden, next week, then he started doing 10, because why could he not do 10? Then he went to 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and then all of a sudden he did 50 push-ups. And this pattern just started happening. Then you just do more, you add more to it. So I see so many times that especially men is like, oh, then I had to go to the gym. It takes me an hour. I had to be there for an hour. Then I had to go home, shower, and then I spend 4 hours before anything is even happening. And I need also the perfect meal plan. I need the perfect routine.
Yes.
And you never get started. And it's just make it so simple. Not even try to get anything on point. Just start doing 5 push-ups, doing 5 squats, doesn't matter. I mean, just start doing something, because then over time you get the motivation, you get the wins, and then you start adding more. Or then I can also do some sit-ups. Then I can also add some squats, and all of a sudden now you'll build your own workout program without really anything. And you can go to YouTube and find the programs, and even with ChatGPT, you can make it even a quick, simple program, and to get started when you get to that point where, okay, now you need more structure.
Yes, and yeah, thank you for simplifying it even better and adding to what just Nate said, the simplicity of it, and that is such an inspiring story to learn from. Wish, what is your take on this?
I'd say just to cap on there is like, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So the smaller bites, the better. But I would add too that mental health is a big piece that's overlooked oftentimes. It's a lot of times when we look at fitness, it's just the muscle and the structure and the technique and stuff like that. But it's like, what's the part that's really supporting all of that? Balance is, I think, a really big part of overall health. And if we're just focused on one thing in particular, then we're going to get out of balance. Like we could be stacked, but messed up upstairs, and it's not going to last for very long. And vice versa. Wow. You could be completely in your head and not taking care of your body, and your mind's going to wither. It's if you're not working on both, then it's not going to.
Yes, certainly. Bringing the aspect of the upstairs, the mental side of it. You might be fit, but are you okay mentally? So it's a whole approach to the whole body, from what we eat, from our minds, from how we keep fit. And thank you for sharing that aspect. Caitlin, I'm coming to you on technology as well. Can technology genuinely assist men in discussing their health, or does it drive them to be more distant? Share your thoughts on that.
Goodness. Wow. Well, first off, I'm just really grateful for the chance to gather and talk about this. I find myself just in the moment listening to everybody and thinking, oh, I didn't do my 5 push-ups yet. So I guess on that note, tech could make us, and I've been studying whether or not we have any sort of addiction to the measures. And, it can create a compulsion. Like I know some people who say, oh, it didn't count if my wearables didn't track it. Does anyone, have that, where you see that happening? But if people feel like they have the sense of agency and they understand the data, then it becomes more about dignity, about how the whole self is integrated and how you can use this data and what the tech provides for a better understanding and better connection with your goals. And I just wanted to bring up that a lot of times what I think is the missing link is people sometimes not realizing that they're in a system. Like the more the tech can connect us with a community, then people start to realize, oh, I'm not in isolation. I think in terms of men's health, I was looking at stats, and men are less likely than women to seek mental health support. That's from the APA. So back to, what Wish was saying about mental health, men might isolate more. 60% of adult men report feeling lonely often or all of the time, and that's from the Surgeon General. And 64% of men say tech and wearables help them feel more in control of their health. So, the data is speaking right now. That's from a survey by Deloitte in 2024. So I think to answer you, Lynn, I'm a hopeful person. I think there's all kinds of hope and agency. This also involves what Jaron Lanier has identified as data dignity. Right now we need to also set the bar high for how people are both accessing what tech provides and understanding the ethics underneath it. So this is a great place to kind of plant that seed and then ask for better measures of, how this whole system is supporting people. And when they feel like they're struggling, that knowledge that resilience means you can reach out to other people, and it's not a weakness to see yourself as part of a community system of help.
Yes, I share the same idea with you. I'm very optimistic. And I'm looking forward to a place whereby men will be really, really open to how they feel mentally or their body in every aspect. I really, really am optimistic about that. And just an example, I'm going to give a very quick example. Here in Africa, the culture here, a lot of men are are opposed to seeking medical attention, even mental attention. So they stay with it, they stay with it, they stay with it until the bubble bursts. And then that's when you realize there was a problem here. So this is just a one interesting conversation. And, Milo, I'm coming to you as well. What do you think can genuinely assist men in discussing their health, or does technology drive them distant?
I think conversations like this is a first start. It's like destigmatizing the concept of mental health. Like mental health is health, and all of that is connected together. And sometimes mental health can be insidious in that it doesn't have, like Lynn, to your story, for example, like it doesn't have a visible physical manifestation until it's a high acuity situation, when it's something has happened that physically causes someone to not be in a good place. And so mental health is part of health. And I think that technology has the opportunity to really assist men in being able to discuss their health, and also be able to explore in a way that it's feeling safe, and that, like I mentioned before, is like data driven. I think that the places that I'm most excited about is being able to explore like practice zones. So like if I want to have this conversation with this person, and part of our mental health is how do we engage with the environments around us, including other humans? How do we have people in that support system to help me when I'm in a place of like I need help taking care of myself, or I need to ask for help? That's also part of the conversations. And if we have practice grounds on how to have some of those conversations, or even have difficult conversations, those are all things that I'm really excited about for us to be able to, practice being better humans to each other. And, when we show up to each other, we can be like the best versions of ourselves. And then also it gives us the practice to also feel comfortable building those habits to ask for help and show up even when we're not feeling like our best. So I think those are some of the things that I'm really excited about.
Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to drag that thread to the next question, and then bringing it to you, Wish. We've talked about apps, we've talked about technology, we've talked about even the spatial computing and its like. But here's the thing. Can digital health information, the information we get from the tech, or the data that we store there, cease to be beneficial and begin to define one's identity? I'm going to give a very simple scenario. You look at your data, and you don't want to go for analysis in the hospital. You just look at the app. This is what the app says. When I feel like this and this and that, it could be this and this and that. So you find people finding their health identity on the app instead of official or seeking medical counsel. So do you think this can happen, and how do we tackle that when it comes to that? And Wish, Caitlin, I also want to bring you on this, Nate as well, but Wish, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I think the information can blind you to a certain point. Kind of getting back to like what Jesper was talking about with what's the sample size you're pulling from? Are those metrics that you're looking at, are they accurate to you? Like, for example, if average is below where I'm at and I'm actually trying to go up, like, am I getting a good response from that data set? Also, I think, depending on how you're using it, it could also become a problem. Like if it becomes too competitive, like I know, like with Apple, a lot of people have the circles thing and everybody competes to try to complete their circles. And I think that sometimes I've seen it where people neglect other areas of their life because they're just so focused on completing their circles. Just because their friend circle is so jacked up into this, it's almost become kind of culty. I'm not saying it's like it with everybody, but that can definitely become a problem when we're too focused on the data itself and not looking at a more holistic approach to getting advice from an actual doctor, somebody that really knows what to do. Because you could be doing something that is just completely boosting your fitness in one area, like say I'm just focused on strength building and that's it, but I'm building my muscle to the point to where I'm actually damaging my body because I'm not paying attention to other pieces that are really important.
That is very important. Yes, paying attention to other aspects. And Gispa, please share in your thoughts, and Caitlin, with what you found out about this, Gispa.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's always a pros and cons about everything. I think definitely also to what Wish says, that I think probably if you're the one who tends to be at the bottom of these leaderboards where you compete against each other, then either you get super competitive and just try to win, or you maybe lose completely motivation and you stop, and then you're not doing anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it becomes a little bit it can becomes a little bit contradicting for what you're actually trying to do. But I think something like, for example, Whoop, where they also actually have your these rest and sleep score they add in. So it's not only the fitness aspect where you actually are physically active, but you also have the part where you are resting and you are building up that counts into your score. I think they have some sleep metrics that who gives the most amount of sleep or something like that. So I mean, that's a good thing where you kind of balance things out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also what I see, that typically these metrics
Yes.
each app have. For example, I have a scale that says it can measure body weight and fat percentage and so on. And one thing I noticed is that when I actually need to add more apps into it,
Mm-hmm.
integrate it with more apps to give it more data to create a better picture of how my weight composition actually is.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's also just being more, I'm gonna say, educated about what is actually the technology is showing you, and what is actually probably more what is not showing you, because that's probably more where it is.
Yes, it's a very interesting view when you talk about balancing what you see with the metrics and what you see in your body, and what you should do with the help when it comes to seeking medical attention, going for regular checkups, right? Caitlin, you've talked about technology a lot, but just take us a little bit deeper on this subject.
Well, and just to also get playful, I look down and sometimes I'll bring this up with groups, like this idea, and they'll say, "Oh, that's Pac-Man." I'm like, yeah, we are conditioned sometimes to feel like we're seeking and we're not enough. And I think sometimes just showing that either the algorithms or the way that we're interacting with a system can sometimes play into this mindset, like we are never achieving enough, like the bar is always higher. And yet what I love about some of the wearables and HRV measures is we learn with that word balance when it means to, and this is physical, this is emotional, this is spiritual. What does it mean to have a sense of meaning and purpose? So I wrote a book last year that just came out. It's called Digital Wellbeing. And in the book, originally the cover was supposed to be a robot arm and a human hand. And I thought, well, that's a little derivative, because right now I think it's more about what does it mean to thrive as a whole human. And if you're always playing the game of I'm not enough, then a person's not actually feeling, and this is where the layers of tech could help us understand ourselves more, and also say, yeah, I have a worth, and it's not about chasing the next thing and the next thing, because then people will feel like they're never done. So I think this conversation, and of course we're never totally complete, but there is something there that's a deeper conversation, about people not only feeling like they matter, but feeling like they're enough and they're not owned by the wearable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I totally concur with that. Having let me just follow up. The feeling of not being enough, is it a feeling? Does it come from inner internal issues that you can deal with by talking to people? How do you deal with that feeling of not feeling not enough?
I mean, for me, I use a lot of reflection practices and journaling because there's no emotion. This is another prop. Sometimes having vocabulary of feelings, connecting to this idea because you can take that in so many directions, Lynn, that I tell someone, wow, if you're having these are all conversations where reflection, yeah, of course, reaching out, but not feeling enough could mean that you're curious about something. To go back to Christopher's word that started GatherVerse, how can we be more introspective, but also trust external communities, all of our collective wisdom at what it means right now in this day and age to be questioning meaning at a deeper level.
Right. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
Nate, I want to get your perspective on this particular subject.
Yeah,
Please
yeah,
start.
I'm just gonna stand or just bridge off on the back of what Wish, Jasper, and Caitlin said. Let's just, I never thought that when I get into this line of work, I'd also be a part-time psychologist without having to go and actually have a degree in psychology. I'm thinking, okay, it's just about the physical, and let's go ahead and get a good heart, just feel well, or strengthen our heart rate, muscles, so forth and so on. I'm just going to use these two examples, similar to what Jesper had said a little earlier. There was someone I was training, and she, based upon my observation and what they were doing, whenever we'd have to do, let's just say a 5 or 7 rep max, they would do the weight and they would go ahead and log it. And then the next week, of course, you do small percentage increases. When it got to about the third month or so, I could tell this is something that you could not you couldn't see it if you were to go ahead and put it into your phone and any type of metrics that you put in. I was able to see that this person was ready to increase the weight or the reps, but they were holding themselves back. Like, I could see it. They were ready to go, but they were in their heads. That's fine. No problem. That's what I'm here for. Right. And so they came this next day and I said, hey, that weight that you're normally used to doing, we're going to do about 10 pounds more. But Nate, I said, I've seen what you do. I know you're used to going ahead and having things done in a prioritized, set, systematic way of doing things. From what, once again, going back to my interaction with this person, what I see, what I observe, the energy that that person gives, and what the energy that I give to that person, that's where we come in. Instead of all the setbacks or all the apprehensions that they have, that's where we go ahead, make a long story short, push them to a point where they end up doing 4 extra reps than they thought they could have, right? Because I knew from our interactions and their commitment to the program that they were ready to push themselves a little bit more than what they were used to doing based upon what they would log in and the feedback that they were getting from them. So once again, it's just it's just something where we end up it doesn't become just a visceral or external type of situation. If we look at it like what we call, our bodies are we don't know that we don't know that we don't know. I'm 50 years old, and the things that they said that what will happen when you get to 50, I'm not that, right? Because I didn't want to be set in those bounds of a mindset of this will happen, that will happen, so forth and so on. And I have a doctor, I'm accountable, I go online, all these things that I do, not so much for, once again, the outer aspect, but just how I feel and how I move and just where it takes your state of mind to being. And so when we experience those things, we can, in our line of work, we can transfer those not feelings, but those experiences onto our clients or our loved ones, whoever they might be. And it becomes a community, right? It's great that you're using you're using apps or data and these type of things and logging this and that. And then let me just say this before you move on to Caitlin had mentioned how guys, I just recently had a summer reboot, and it was for a group of men and group of women. They were supposed to meet together anyway. 100 Black men, 100 Black women, and
Yes.
it was together. It was a great thing. It was for an organization in Oakland. And do you know that this event where I had 3 classes, it went on for 3 months, 3 classes every day, 3 classes 3 times a week, and for all that duration of time, women showed up 5, anywhere between 7 to 10 women showed up every time for those classes. This is backing up and confirming Caitlin, her analytics. Do you know for 3 months, for 3 classes every week, how many men showed up?
Tell us.
A total of 2 men showed up for 3 months. Consistently, 5 to 7 women showed up every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, encouraging one another, pushing one another, just with the program and workouts. They just never, and then that guy that did show up, guess what? You could smell or reek of the alcohol. And before and after that, he said, I apologize. I didn't get on him or anything like that. I apologize for how I performed. And I know that you might have smelled alcohol on me. And I said, oh, it's okay. We can discuss it. We can talk about it. He said, I'll be back again. Sure, no problem. I asked him how everything was going. He just never showed up. And then the person that was also the head of the organization, I reached out to him. He said, well, unfortunately, that's the issue that we have, not amongst African-American men, but men in general. So I've experienced that firsthand. Yeah.
Oh, right. And that is a very, very interesting angle to see it, and a very good example that just goes along to show the state of men's health, right? And having conversations like this is what really makes the change and the difference. Milo, I'm coming to you when it comes to privacy, right? How do we protect men's privacy without blocking health progress? Share your thoughts.
Yeah, I would say that the safe spaces and vulnerable spaces is key. From a digital technologies perspective, there's all these different guidelines that are out there, like HIPAA, and being able to protect personal identifiable information. There's all these kind of regulations and formal rules out there from a platform technologies perspective, but there's also kind of the gray line of, when you push updates and changes to your product, do you actually help your customers know that those are there? And do you actually help lean towards privacy first? Are you more about let me sell your personal data to other places because I can monetize off of that quickly? And so it's the people that are in the decision-making spaces of what we're building in the world and what we're putting out into our technologies and products, that are we being transparent about what we are tracking, what we are not tracking, and easily allowing users to opt in or opt out of those experiences? Or is it embedded in a click, in a click, in a click over there, and it's really hard to opt out, which is actually a strategic design. And so I think one is from the technologies and who's building these things, we have to be making that as a focus and priority to protect privacy. The second, as users and consumers, we also have to have a level of activism of do we want to make that a priority of the types of products we use? And if not, don't use them. And that's something that we as consumers have that choice to do. I think personally with conversations, the relationships around when we have conversations with other men and they're sharing something and we're inviting people to be vulnerable, it's in the safe circle of trust, and making sure that we expressly say thank you so much for sharing that with me. And we build our own toolbox of how we show up for men and have the spaces that are safe for them so that they can come back when they're not in a good space. So all of us upskilling in our social emotional intelligence serves all of us.
Wonderful. And I want to just highlight the aspect of us as users having the spirit of activism. Do you want to use it or not? But here's the thing. Let's just follow up with the next question, and I'm coming to you, Caitlin and Jesper and Wish. What blind spot do men carry when it comes to trusting digital health tools? Caitlin.
Well, I think I would speak for everyone. I'm still thinking about what Mai just shared and thinking about the idea of a new literacy. What if we have a new literacy right now that's needed with this type of health? Because we've been coming from, I think, the most awkward time to be human, when we were hunching over phones and technology looked like a 2D screen. And now things are going to be spatial. They already are, but I think more people are going to be accessing, let's say, wearable data ported into glasses or into some kind of spatial object. So, what does it actually mean to be looking at the future with this type of what some people have called biometric psychography? Like,
Yes.
we might have our actions and our behaviors also being tracked. And so, my whole saying is, let's be critical but not cynical. Let's ask, we brought up hope a lot on this panel. What kind of world do we want to build? And then, Lynn, you had asked about blind spots, and I think I've named one. I follow Thich Nhat Hanh, a Buddhist monk, who says that the next Buddha is going to be a sangha, which means a community. Like, our community is going to be the next big thing. So I think, again, that overlooking that you're part of a motivational team where people are, we kind of over-index for feeling like things are against us. And, like a lot of us were saying, we predict maybe some of the safety mechanisms, but maybe not the positive outcomes. So, and maybe also overlooking that emotion can be a tool for connection, not a weakness, but a strength.
Yeah, Caitlin, I was listening to you and I couldn't help but think, what a way to conclude. Our time is up. I know we could have gone on and on. And thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for experience. Thank you for the experiences that you have shared. I absolutely enjoyed this panel, and we're looking forward to having for the next summits, perhaps. And our Gather was well for this panel. Over to you, GatherVerse team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Russell, you there? I just heard you.
And welcome to our next session, where we have our good friends over here at GatherVerse Men's Health Summit that have just concluded on an incredible, wonderful roundtable discussion. We're going to be interviewing next here our very own Christian Brown, who's been on a sojourn, if you will, in different places around the world when it comes to mental wellness for men and for women, and being able to teach a variety of communities when it comes to mental wellness. Christian, we're very happy to have you. How are you?
I'm very happy to be here. I'm grateful to be here. Doing well, healthy. So, no complaints. How are you, good sir?
Very well. And it was just an extraordinary roundtable discussion that we just had, a very, very deep dive and to a better understanding of how we look at the focus point of wellness from human perspective, and then how technology helps to leverage scale of that.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to be able to arrive at a stage where we start with people rather than platforms first. I think it does speak to the necessity of us making sure that we prioritize humans in the equation much more further than the investments that we put in technology. With that said, I want to be able to scale into this consideration of wellness. And for you, you've studied not only here and originating here in the United States, but also in Europe, and exploring not just the psychology and the unexplored understanding of mental wellness as we know it contemporary to our time, but also understanding with emerging technologies, you've been able to situate dozens of communities together in Paris and in different various places in France and Switzerland and more. What are you seeing now in the state of play when it comes to mental wellness as someone that I know that lives this life and exploring this life and has personal impact because of it?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important to just add some context around my perspective, right? First is being a man in my 20s, born in the US, starting my career post college in technology, but then experiencing burnout, being diagnosed with severe anxiety, and entering my own therapeutic journey, and from there gaining a passion for mental health and wellness resources, and realizing that it is a gift. It's a privilege to have that type of access, and then having a desire to move abroad to where I've been, the past 4 years in France, and which introduced me to an entirely new way of life, entirely new culture. And so just throughout that journey, what I'm seeing today when it comes to mental wellness, I'm seeing such a huge need for more. I'm still seeing that there is opportunity to innovate now that we have this access to amazing technologies that allow us to build an app in a day, right? We still have so many people that are struggling globally. I saw it in France, and now I've been back in the US for a couple of months, and I'm seeing it here. And so I think for me as a builder, as an innovator, the one thing that really stands out to me is that there's still a big need for tools, solutions, and strategies for people to take control, take ownership over their mental well-being, and ultimately their path to healing.
We talk about this path to healing, and many people that were within that environment, they will understand what that means, the path. Why a path?
Yeah. So I say a path because I see it as a process, right? It's like for me personally speaking, just through my experience in therapy, first comes this awareness that happens, right? And it brings me back to the work that I'm doing now. Focus on well-being within the workplace. I created this framework around well-being that starts with awareness, and that awareness piece is first realizing, okay, there's something within me that needs attention, right? There's something within me that I feel friction. I don't feel good, right? That there's that awareness piece, and then it comes to alignment. So alignment focuses on what are my values, and how are my values being acknowledged within relationships, within work. Am I feeling aligned? And then there goes the agency. And agency speaks to the freedom that you have once you do feel that alignment within your workplace or within your relationships. And then it goes to belonging. Okay, I feel safe here. And then there's sustainability. Okay, I'm building up tools and strategies to sustain my well-being. And so that entire loop is a process. And so when I talk about path, I also am thinking of the word process, because right now we're all in a process. Where we are today is because of the process that we've been through the past few years, right? And where we will be in the future is because of the process that we're in right now. And so it kind of goes to the tone of, we're always becoming someone. We're always in this process of becoming, and that becoming is the path that we're on. Each one of us are on individually.
Thank you for sharing. I know, Christian, that you've done work with banks and worked with all different types of companies and corporations on this path. When it comes to mental wellness, are you seeing that companies and corporations are more open and receptive towards wanting those people that they work with, including, your designated contacts and people that you're working with? Are they receptive to growth when it comes to wellness and well-being and mental wellness in particular?
Definitely, 100%. And most of the people that I talk to are in the human resources department, if you will. Since I've been back in the States, I recently started a podcast series called Leading Well. I'm sure you like that name.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so Leading Well. And so with that podcast, the focus is to interview senior HR leaders about the intersection of well-being and productivity, right? The tagline is building workplaces that feel good and work better, because it's obvious to both leadership and the front line that well-being is important, but well-being has to be tied to business metrics for it to be invested in the way that it should, right? And so to answer your question, the need is definitely there. It's obvious, but the kind of the gap that still exists is, okay, what metrics exist to where I can clearly see a ROI on investing in the well-being of my people, right? So being able to speak to things like, okay, retention, turnover, productivity, engagement, right? For me, the challenge has been, how do I tell the story in a way that clearly allows leadership to see that there is a business outcome to investing in the well-being of their people?
We talk about this ROI, and we see that there's measurable outcomes now with mental wellness. And in our first roundtable discussion, many people were talking about these applications that we're using. I know that Nathan brought that up, and Caitlin expressed it as well, and as well as Jesper. And we see technology infused within working environments more so than we ever have before, infused in our daily lives more so than we ever have before. Now that we're able to measure and see the obvious benefits of mental wellness, and we have various practitioners in those, such as yourself, that are working with whole entire organizations and cohorts to help get them on a better path. And audience, I do encourage you to reach out to Christian. He's very honest with his methodologies and approaches towards mental wellness, and I completely 100% support it. But here's my question, Christian. If you can walk into an environment and teach and train on mental wellness, so can AI. What's the difference between the heartbeat and the machine in this equation?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the word you used, the heartbeat. I think that the heartbeat is the main difference in the equation, because AI does not have a heartbeat, right? And there's something about a heartbeat that automatically it develops a connection within humans. And so what I'm seeing personally is that when there's opportunity for a marriage between human and machine, there's a lot of value there, right? And then one of the reasons why I really admire, what you're building with GatherVerse, what you've been building, really focus on humanity first approaches to emerging technology. And when I think of humanity first, I think first comes the human, right? And the human has to always be involved in this process. And I also believe when it comes to speaking about working with organizations are still some, right, still on the fence when it comes to AI, right? How do they fully implement it? You spoke about me working with a bank, and I worked with a bank in Switzerland, and huge bank, and they hadn't even implemented AI into their systems, right? Not even just on AI, but on any level, just because of their bureaucracy there, but also just because it's still a growing technology, right? And so when a human is able to come in and say, "Hey, I'm leading this, right? This is something that I'm doing based on my experience and my research, and my studies, but I'm bringing in this tool to optimize and to add value, and this is how it adds value." I think there's an opportunity that practitioners have to also become educators when it comes to AI too, and that's also a role that I'm excited about, right? Educating on AI as well, especially since my foundational belief is humanity first.
I think that all practitioners and all of those that work in horizontally in every industry that has the capacity to understand emerging technologies as a whole is in need to become educators in this particular time. I really like and appreciate that you said that, is because you'll come out of school and you'll have graduated from whatever vocation, university or college that you come from, or school, and you didn't know that you were going to be challenged, if you will, with artificial intelligence, for example, or working in spatial environments, for example. And there's a learning curve that you weren't given when you were educating on becoming whatever it is that you're going to become in life as far as your career path. And so now we find ourselves with this technology that's quite capable, and it is, quite capable of teaching and learning and guiding. And people are using artificial intelligence every single day throughout the day. But then at the same time, as you've expressed, there's those organizations that haven't even touched it. And the real concern is that there's such a disbalance when these organizations do use it. They see that it's capable. They don't understand the need to have a human in the loop, is because there are things that artificial intelligence cannot fulfill that simply a human can. It goes to the Maslow's paradox. What's easy for AI is hard for humans, but what's easy for humans is hard for AI. And I think we should not forget that when it comes to how we adopt and subscribe to technology. Christian, being on that note, because I don't want to stray too far from that into the narrative of this event. As a man, do you find it increasingly difficult to find resources and solutions towards this wellness path? Or are you finding that there's an abundance of information available? And if then within that abundance, that this information available is good and useful information? Or is there a need to continue to grow towards contributing towards current resources because of the need to adapt contemporary to our time to new situations and environments, and given the volatility of life and the planet and Earth, and the political theater and things that are happening non-political? Do you find that there's not enough resources, or there are enough resources to be able to help get people towards that next day?
Yeah, great question. For me personally, in my own experience as a man, I think there's a plethora of information right now, especially with AI. So many resources, but I believe there's a gap when it comes to community, especially as a man. And this hits me close because I have spent the past 4 years overseas, away from home, away from my childhood friends, and having to come back to Atlanta and rebuild community from a more mature place. It's been challenging. because I think as men, we do have a responsibility to lead, right? We have a responsibility to be providers and protectors and cultivators and all these things. But it can be lonely, right? It can be lonely, especially as a man pursuing healthy relationships, right? I think there's so many toxic, I think toxic environments for men. There's so many toxic circles, right, for men. And so once you do decide to commit to the path of healing, it can be hard to find other brothers who are also on that same path that you can go on the journey with, right? And I think it speaks to just the loneliness, epidemic that has been prevalent for a long time, right? It's like Harvard has the longest study on loneliness, right? And loneliness being one of the detriments to happiness. And so that's what I feel personally, and what I see is that for men there's so many resources, right? But when it comes to the human connection, there has to be communities that exist to support the men who are committing to living healthy lives.
I agree, and I salute that. Thank you, Christian Brown, so much for having us. The opportunity to be able to sit with you and explore. We look forward to hearing more of your sentiments for day 1 and day 2 of GatherVerse. And coming up now, audience, we have an extraordinary roundtable discussion with those that really have come to bring us a cadre of information that we certainly haven't been equipped with before. Thank you, Christian. Our gather as well. And for our next roundtable, may our gather be well.
Hello and welcome to GatherVerse Men Health Summit Day 1. And what an amazing fireside chat that was with Christopher and Christian. But up now, though, we have a fantastic roundtable discussion where we're going to be talking about optimal balance, fighting, confronting, and overcoming the challenges of life. And of course, our summit is sponsored by the amazing Pico. And with us today, we also have many amazing panelists with us, like the likes of Brandon, Dr. Jen, James, Christopher, and many others on the panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick introduction, 30 seconds to 60 seconds from each of you. And then what we'll then do is then we'll get into the roundtable questions and discussion, basically. So we'll start with, to my right-hand side, which is Dr. Jen. So welcome, Dr. Jen. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, friends. Thanks for having me. My name is Dr. Jen Fry. I'm a former college volleyball coach. I coached for about 15 years, and I currently am a professional speaker. I sit there in a section of conflict and culture, and I help people understand how they navigate conflict personally, because it will bleed all over their relationships and professionally. Also, I got my PhD in sports geography from Michigan State, so go green.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Jen. And Brandon, welcome as well. Please introduce yourself. And yeah, we would like to know who you are, Brandon. You need to unmute your microphone just down at the bottom. You'll see in the little microphone button.
That would probably help. My name is Brandon Godoris. I'm the founder of Warm Heart Life here in Stamford, Connecticut. And I work with a lot of coaches, brand builders, and thought leaders on getting their message out to the world through public speaking.
Thank you for joining us, Brandon. And there we go. We should have, sorry, I'm having microphone issues by the looks of it. But Cedric, please introduce yourself. And Cedric, if you could, just let me know. Am I having microphone problems right now?
No, you're good. You're coming through good. You're fine.
All right, awesome. Cedric, yeah, please introduce yourself.
Appreciate it. Cedric Scott Jr. I am based in the Myrtle Beach area, South Carolina in the States. I am a major proponent in the STEM education space. That's a lot of my focus is. So doing a lot of work with an initiative that I've created called STEM 1000. So you can check out STEM1000.com, where I've created a lot of different resources, books, in promotion of STEM education. And on top of that, the two kind of major hats that I wear are listed right underneath my name. Husband and father. So those are the things I'll be leaning into today. Appreciate it.
Pleasure having you with us, Cedric. And also, James, also thank you for letting me know that my microphone's good. But please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, James.
Yes, thank you, Cedric. I'm James Welniak, and I am the Director of Mindfulness and Focus with CUP Advisory. That is CUP with a K Advisory. I am teaching clients the CUP playbook alongside my 25 years of digital business transformation consulting expertise to balance and protect the human self in order to razor sharpen focus in the age of AI. I am more than a playbook and a resume to my clients. I'm a face, a name, a voice with a new disease, a digital disease. I am digital addiction prevention, recovery, and total transformation in the age of AI. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you for having with us, James. And it's Russell, by the way. But no problem, James. It's
Russell,
all good.
Russell,
Yes.
I thought it was Grant. My apologies.
No.
Russell, I will never forget it. I will never forget it, Russell. Those are good potato chips. Good potato chips. I love Russell potato chips.
I appreciate you, James. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Christopher, over to you. Not the Christopher, the founder of GatherVerse, but obviously Christopher Thompson, the co-founder of Hummingbird Labs. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Russell. It's nice to be here. It's also very new for me. I'm hearing these well-toned pitches and the interviews that we heard before. I'm actually here in the San Francisco Bay Area, returning from the East Coast. I've been on a spiritual journey for the last couple of years, a pilgrimage of my own. So I'm re-entering the workspace in a space in a way I don't know yet. I've been deeply into technology in the last 5 to 10 years in the blockchain space, in the AI space, in the computer technology space, but also as it seems a little bit contraindicated, I also founded the Vital Voice Collective, where I take my behavioral health background and bring it into the space where I know that it's most needed. So I can't answer the question who I am. I can give you my best authentic self at the moment, but I'm excited to be a part of it and love to answer the question. So.
I mean, Christopher, I think you nailed it at one. So I think you definitely explained yourself. So thank you for joining us, Christopher. And also, I'm a blockchain Web3 guy myself. So it's great to have another fellow person like yourself here. So thank you. Coach, please introduce yourself. Who are you, Coach?
Hello, my name is Paulo Mendes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi. Loud and clear.
Okay. I'm originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, but I've been living in Cape Town, South Africa for about 27 years now. And I worked for over 25 years in the corporate environment with training and coaching, development, soft skills, and personal development. And in the last 8 years, I decided to actually work directly with the individuals. And I founded the Waymaker Transformational Life Coaching Program. So I am a transformational life coach and relationship coach. And it's been a really incredible experience since the pandemic, how people were forced to look more inside, and both men and women look into their strengths. And it's been an incredible journey that every time I work, whether with an individual man or with couples, how important it is. People are desperately looking to redesign their sense of identity and redefine their purpose in their journey in life. So it's been an extremely rewarding journey in this last 8 years in personal private coaching.
Thank you for joining us, Paulo. And last but not least, I've met you before.
Yeah, correct. We met before. Yep, I think we met in a couple of GatherVerse events from the past 2 months ago.
Yes, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So myself, I am Dr. Satish Kumar Rangali, and currently I am living in Woodbridge, New Jersey. So I completed my doctorate program from Judson University, Illinois, and
Okay.
currently I am working as a business testing lead for Cigna Healthcare company.
Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Satish. And also, it's great to have everyone here. And I'll just quickly introduce myself and then we'll get into the questions. My name's Russell. I am the Global Affairs Director at GatherVerse. I'm also the co-founder of Just Verify. And Just Verify is focused on building the trust infrastructure for AI. So we're all about verification and trustworthiness of AI models, making sure they're aligned with human values and they behave and perform correctly. And basically, our long-term mission is to verify the integrity of these models to make sure that they maintain aligned with human values and humanity. So let's get straight into the questions. And question one is, how do men carry strength and vulnerability without struggling in silence? So we'll start with Cedric, because I think I can see you nodding your head there, so I think you'll be a great person to kickstart this roundtable off. And then also we'll go to Dr. Jen, because I'll be interested to hear your perspective, Dr. Jen, as well on this. Over to you, Cedric.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a difficult one. Society, personally, my own experiences with working through a lot of things. I think the first thing is that a normalization of communication has to be set in place. So like actually being able to provide a space for men to speak. I actually think that starts a lot earlier in life, honestly. I also have a 5-year-old son. So creating that space and opportunity for him to be vulnerable, to say what's going on, what's wrong, and understanding that, it's interesting seeing the words strength and vulnerability together. and question, because often vulnerability is not necessarily seen as a strength, seen as a weakness. Whereas I think the thing that has really helped me and what I think has been most beneficial and would be likely beneficial to anybody listening is, number one, seek community wherever you can. It's great to, of course, build with other men in space to open up that environment. Whereas if you don't have that, person in your family or what have you, maybe it's friends, colleagues, but at least having that. But then also I think getting to a point where, I mean, realistically, you might just need to seek even professional support to be able to get to that point of being comfortable with opening up, because things do get heavy. It does get tense. It's stressful. But understanding that ultimately you have kind of one of two decisions. You either address the concerns and then deal with those things, or you end up in a space where you either implode or explode. Is beneficial for anybody.
That is very true. Dr. Jen, do you agree with everything Cedric just said, or do you have potentially a different perspective on what we're discussing?
I don't know if stuff is like a different perspective or I agree or disagree, right? This is just a different viewpoint. I'm not a husband, father at all. I'm not a man. I think, though, from my perspective, I think the first thing is we have to really start nuancing out what masculinity usually means. Because what tends to happen is that masculinity is where men don't show emotions, they don't show vulnerability, they don't show weakness, they don't show emotion, they don't show any of that. And so a point I would add with Cedric is when we're talking about kids, we talk to these little boys and tell them, don't cry, you're big and strong, don't show emotions, don't show weakness. So we're teaching them at a young age where we're telling young boys to not show any of this stuff, but it's 100% allowed to with girls. So then what tends to happen is that boys start to connect any emotion with being female and girls. And so it's like, you don't want to be like a little girl, don't show that emotion. So then we negatively have people thinking about emotion connected to women versus it being an aspect of being a human. So I think that's the first part about it. I think the next part about it is that men have to be willing to talk to other men about these things. There's a video going around of a guy who moved to New York for his girlfriend, and his guy friends are like, I didn't even know her name. I didn't know anything about her. And all the guys are laughing around. That's unacceptable. Like, that should never happen. Men should be able to have vulnerable, deep conversations with men without it being like, quit acting like a girl, quit acting like, quote unquote, you're gay, like, quit acting like these human emotions. And so men have to open up space and grace for other men to have these big emotions and to figure out how to negate them and how to move through them. Because strength and vulnerability, to me, are the same thing. You show true strength if you can show your vulnerable self. You show true strength when you're able to admit you're hurt. You show truth strength when you're able to admit that you did not like what someone said to you or how someone touched you. You are showing true strength with that. Strength is not, I'm a protector with a gun, or I'm going to fight the bear. True strength is you being able to say, what you said really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
That is why, to me, strength and vulnerability actually coincide.
Interesting perspective, Dr. Jen, and thank you for sharing that. And I honestly believe, Dr. Jen, that there's a balance to it. I think, at times you can be vulnerable, so to speak, like with your brothers, etc., or if you have like a brotherhood around you or other men that you go to the gym with, or you go shooting with, or whatever hobby you do with other guys, so to speak. And then you can also show strength as well in terms of, okay, if you want to lift weights and show you're the masculine man and you're like big and strong, right? There's that aspect too. So I think it's a balance between both, but I do believe 100%
Russell,
what you're
I'm going to push back because you can show vulnerability if you're lifting weights and you can't get that off of your chest. You are showing vulnerability with asking for help. Some men will not show that vulnerability, and they will struggle and almost kill themselves because they're unwilling to be vulnerable and to admit they can't lift that weight.
Yeah,
so that's why strength and vulnerability are the same thing. To me,
I think there's common sense there, kind of thing, but I do agree with what you're saying, Dr. Jen, 100%. But yeah, I definitely think there's a balance between both sides of it. So, but anyway, let's go on to the next question because we have so many more questions to get through and so much more of wider scope to discuss. So, the next question is: what barriers prevent men from seeking help, and how can we collectively address this issue? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to you, James. 1 second. Hold your horses.
All right, Russell. I know you and me. I'm like waiting.
you want to jump in? I can see it.
I know.
So
I'm ready to go. Red Fox is ready.
I'll be over to you in a second, James, and then Brandon as well. We'll go over to you after. So over to you, James. Let it rip.
So Russell, you and Cedric and even Dr. Jen, you guys said something extremely powerful: community and balance. And see where the disconnect is. I'm a 52-year-old man that tried to commit suicide at the age of 49 from doing too many screens, too much wine, too much of everything. And what I'm going to tell you is the problem, the barriers that prevent men, it's screen time. It's not just the smartphone. Because what I've experienced with myself and with my clients that are all men and teenagers is that we have one identity that we represent in person to the world that we work with, our wives, our children. And then there's another one that's artificial. That is what your persona on social media, your LinkedIn, and that's all ego. And so we talk about this as men because we talk about feelings. And Dr. Jen, you said that thing about getting help at the gym. I did not get help because I was too much of a man. Even though I'm a gay man, I still had those issues of, hey fag, these kinds of things that as that little nerdy kid and, in drama and, I was a little bookworm. And so I understand that. So it's all fear. And so fear is keeping us from being balanced. And when we look at screens collectively, not just the smartphone, but things that are around us in our viewpoint. And if you think about this, is that if you have a persona of yourself that's artificial, and if you're around artificial, you become artificial. That's what happened to me with the addiction, because we get addicted to dopamine, right? We get to that addicted to eroticism. And I'm sorry, Dr. Jen, we're men and we have the hunter-gatherer instinct in us. So we like to feel productive. We like that dopamine. We also like desire. We have those physical needs. That's why we have issues with porn and gambling. We like that Vegas. You know, I call it the Vegas roll, but there's actually a breathing technique that actually helps you soothe your vagus nerve. It's called the Sufi breath, and something that I teach my clients. It's extremely powerful before you kind of go and do a big call or a big presentation or just a date. You can kind of calm your inner fear, and I call it your inner vagus roll. And so these are the barriers, I believe, and my clients believe, because when you look around, especially in the US, you go out to dinner, you see a family of 4 disconnected with their phone. That's completely artificial. But then you go to Brazil, my other half is Brazilian. We just got back from October 7th at a full moon wedding, and I got to experience 10 days of different culture with less screens. And I'm talking about billboard screens, guys. So when you're in your car with your wife, you're having a conversation and you see that billboard go by, boom, your eye is going to see it unless you learn how to train your brain to not look away. Even at a gym, you go, like, I have an addiction. Like, I could spend hours. I was that guy in consulting that would sit on my toilet working by choice, but it was because I was a man and I wanted to feel productive, because that made me feel powerful, right? That's to me, those are the barriers. And I think community, and there's a reason why AA is anonymous. And so what I talk about with my community is with MRI is that we need to get rid of the anonymous when it comes to digital addiction, because as your screen time increases, so your will and your observation of gambling, of online content, of alcohol. Because I tell you what, my wine consumption, I didn't drink when I was a kid. I didn't drink. My parents didn't drink. I did not start drinking until social isolation, working from home. I was box whining myself, watching TV. I couldn't even sleep without it on. I learned this strange loop, this cycle, this process. And there's a lot of research that I've done on this about how you train. And Dr. Jen, you probably know this. And I've talked to some psychologists that even Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, talks about this with teenagers, about the patterns in your brain. And then that was me. And I didn't have a cell phone in the, I was one of those professionals that took a long time to get a smartphone because I always had one with work. And I knew if I got used to it, man, I would never get off of it. And then my one phone turned to 2. And then the rest
I will jump in, James, because we do.
Sorry, I can talk about this all day, guys.
No, you were sharing some great insights, and thank you for sharing, James. And I do 100% agree with you. Like, social media has changed a lot of things. Phones have changed a lot of things. Technology has changed a lot of things. And I completely agree with you 110% on the key issues that you're discussing when it comes to gambling, when it comes to porn addiction, etc. Those are massive issues for men. So 100% agree with everything that you're saying there. And I completely agree with also everything that you're saying too. So thank you for sharing, James. But we've got to move on to Brandon. Brandon.
Of course, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Please share your thoughts on what barriers prevent men from seeking help, and how can we collectively address the issue from your point of view, Brandon?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about how can we address this collectively, one of the biggest things is stop telling people to ask for help. And I know that may sound contradicting, but facts tell, stories sell, and people will relate to stories a lot better than someone just constantly saying, ask for help, ask for help, ask for help. I was like, someone commits suicide, call this number. That's not going to relate as much as a story that's being told. So, for example, when I was younger, I didn't understand how to ask for help. And I was at a mandatory seminar. I was 20 years old. I didn't want to be there. It was late at night. And this guy came in, he was in his mid 60s. And he said he wanted to be the best in the world at what he did. And all he did was write down the top 10 people who were the best in the world at what he did. And he went and learned, observed, shadowed, studied, and met those 10 people. He didn't tell us to meet those 10 people. He told us stories on how he reached out to them, what he learned from them, how he connected with them, how he stayed in touch with them. And that made me understand, if I want to get to point B from where I am now, I got to ask for help. He didn't tell me to ask for help. So what did I do? I was so inspired by the stories he shared that I wrote down my top 10 lists. 3 weeks later, I got to meet the number 3 guy on my list. He told me everything to do to be successful in my field. And then at 26, I was voted top 50 in America, the youngest person on that list. And I was on the same list as the guy who gave me the advice 6 years prior. So I never told people to ask for help there. I shared a story about how I was inspired to start reaching out to the people who could guide me in the right direction.
You're speaking some really big facts there, because also one other thing that men generally like to do is they like to share their stories. They like to share their experience. They like to share the knowledge down to others, right? And that's what men have always natively done, since, well, human race time. So it's interesting that you're saying that, Brandon, because it's also we like to learn, right? We like to hear the stories of other people. We're like, okay, you've been through that experience. All right, let me hear what he says. And then I'm going to go through that experience too. But at least I know how to navigate that, or how I can trudge through that road and be able to, go left this way and right this way and not make a wrong turn. You might, but at least you can learn from that mistake very quickly and then get back into lane. So what you said there, Brandon, is like hitting the nail right on the head there. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective. And I do agree from also personal experience myself. So let's go on to the next question though, which is, what does the process of healing involve for men, and who have been conditioned to suppress their emotions? So Christopher, we're going to bring you in on this, and then also we'll go to Paolo, and then Doctor, we will be over to you very shortly. Don't worry, but we've got you with the next question. So, Christopher, please do share your thoughts of what does the process of healing involve for men who have been conditioned to suppress their emotions?
Good God, what a question! First, I'm lost in the last two questions, because one of the things that I would address, this feels like it's off question, but I think it's more the topic in a whole, is that we all look through our own eyes, and we all want to be a part of this thing. And what I've heard over and over again throughout this series is community and connection. And for me in this, I could not survive the last 15 years of my life without fellowship, without a deep connection to my own problems, without hitting a point in my life, not to speak too obviously to my path, but hitting a bottom which allowed me a complete restart. I think that the answer to the question is, quite frankly, it's all wrapped up in the first two questions. The fact is that men are horrifically untrained to be human beings.
Yes, sir.
And in doing that, we all seek our own ways of connection, whether it be the gym or Web3 or anything else. The fact is that listening would be a great start. And how about learning to listen, not just waiting for your time to speak? The idea that, I come from a very different place where we're talking about technology and how men, GatherVerse is around technology and so forth. But the truth is that when we boil it down to the most simplest factors, like technology is a tool, it's not a human being. It's a tool for human beings. And when we lose track of what becomes what, we lose track of the fact that we keep jumping ahead of our own progress. The reality is that we as human beings need to go backwards, slow down a lot, and get right with ourselves, and then bring that to our to our fellows. The fact is that you wipe me out with this question, because
no, you shared something even better, Christopher. Please continue.
It's for me, it's it's hard for me not to have like a total implosion. The reality is that between our political space, between continuing to watch, I probably am the oldest person in the panel, which to me puts me in a different category, because I'm not actually. I'm 57, but I'm 10 years in recovery. So the reality is that I got to restart my life, reinvent what it is that I'm experiencing in my path and in my life experience, and that gives me a perspective of not old dog, old tricks, but a lot of time making mistakes, and and in that process, that it's been my best education ever. I mean, when Brandon spoke to the don't tell them, don't tell them to ask for help. You teach people how to ask for help by asking for help. There's an attraction model that we really don't do these days, which is vulnerability allows us to tell our true story, and authenticity is heard by every single human being. Doesn't matter what the relation or direct experience is, we hear it, we connect. There's a frequency that we maybe don't understand, but we connect. And in that connection, people are drawn to that light, and in that light, we can then provide that. What would be the answer to my question directly? Get leadership that creates opportunity for people to learn from them, not to follow them or not follow them. There's anyway, again, I told you I was going to implode. So the questions mean a lot to me, put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be here, and take my time and be able to answer some really important questions, but more importantly, learn and listen from you all. So that's what I have.
I want to say, first of all, I really appreciate you coming on the stage, Christopher, and actually sharing your personal experience and what you've done in your journey. It's incredible that you have done that here on the stage. So I want to say thank you for that, first of all. And second of all, I can relate to a lot in what you're saying, 100%. Personally, and also everyone on this table, on this round table right now can, even Brandon himself. But honestly, yeah, really appreciate you sharing that. And I just think it's, when you're talking about technology being used as a tool, I hope that is the case, because one of my good friends told me that, technology is undefeated in a nutshell. And, when he told that to me, I never thought about that. And it took me a while to understand what he actually said. When I realized what he said, he's like basically saying, look, technology is going to continue advancing, whether you like it or not. But the point is what can you do as a man when, yourself and the other men around you, how can you collaborate together in order to be able to manage that or speak about that, etc. So, or even experience it. So to your point, Christopher, I completely agree with what you're saying. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that. So yeah.
My pleasure.
Paolo, please, you've got to follow up on that now, Paolo. So
thanks, Christopher.
Please share your thoughts on this question.
All right. But first, Christopher, don't feel so bad about me 57. I'm 56 and a half. So I'm almost there. And yeah, life can be absolutely colorful. I literally feel, and I have my wife and my kids and my friends that testify to that. I feel that I'm on a completely different journey in life. It's like it's a third different life I'm living since I've been in Africa for the last 27 years. And I grew up a scared boy. I grew up a bullied, short, skinny guy that was always bullied, never good enough. You have to be perfect, but nothing you do is ever good enough. Got into the military, became a killing machine, and became bigger, stronger, and I thought, that's it. Now I'm a man. Now I can defend myself. I can beat up anyone that tries to bully me. And started having problems with relationships because relationships became a compensation for the emptiness inside, and then got into the professional world, into tourism and hotel. And then the hotel industry is all about diplomacy and relationships. I had to become a completely different person at that stage. And then eventually came to Africa to start over and build a new life. And after 13 years of marriage, I was getting divorced because my wife and I couldn't understand each other. I have the emotional training of a girl. I was raised by my sisters, and James, I can absolutely relate to that. I hid behind my work, which is what every man does, because 100%. At work we get the ability to resolve problems. At home, we feel like we don't know how to handle the stress of the conflict. And I had to learn how to become a man. Like Dr. Jen was saying, what does it mean to be masculine? What does it mean to be a man? And like Cedric mentioned also in terms of, learning to be a husband, learning to be a father, I had to first learn to be a man. And just to touch back with Brandon, I literally invested on seminars and personal development books and programs where I received great advice. And just so interesting, this afternoon I was watching something from Jack Ma. You guys know Jack Ma, the Chinese mogul.
Unfortunately, not.
Isn't he the founder of Alibaba?
Yes, yes, he is. Yes.
Yeah. So I was watching a seminar presentation from him, and he was saying, we men tend to want to be the smartest guy. We compete on who has, the better answer, the most smart idea, and a machine can replace us with the smart ideas. But if you are wiser, and that comes from storytelling, that comes from sharing experience, that comes from learning from each other, that comes from community, and having somebody that will hold you accountable in your development and in your growth. So I was very blessed to have two great friends in the last 10 years that hold me accountable to become the best version of myself, to
Incredible.
open up and be authentic, to be transparent. So more than just having a community, having somebody that is not just a friend for a beer and a braai or a barbecue. In South Africa, we call braai. In America, barbecue. In Brazil, James, I'm from Brazil, we call churrasco. I don't know if you heard that expression.
Awesome.
Right?
Well,
And-
you know what,
and-
Paolo, I was going to say, and Guy, you guys are not the only ones in the 50s. I'm 52. So we have
there you
community
go.
right here. 73.
There you go.
There you
There's
go.
three
So
of
we have
you.
community
So-
right here. Sorry.
So it's great to have community, but more than just having somebody you can blow out steam with and talk and resolve all the issues in the world while you're having a drink. But the next morning, were you held accountable? Do you have somebody that in the military we would say, do they have your six? Do they have your back? Do they demand better from you while they support you in your skills and they support you in your challenges, where you can be vulnerable from a perspective of being authentic? I want to be a little bit better every day. Perfection is not the goal. Growth is.
I'm going to have to jump in, Paolo, and I appreciate you sharing that. And there was so much said there, so much said from Christopher. I mean, there's just so much going on right now. So, Paolo, I really appreciate you being on the stage with us. Thank you so much for sharing with us as well.
Pleasure.
But we need to get round to more questions. So,
There you go.
question
Let's go. Let's go.
Question 5. How can men bounce back when life hits harder than expected? Paolo has shared, Christopher has shared, but Dr. Satesh,
Yeah,
not necessarily maybe your life story, so to speak, but in a nutshell, so to speak, how can men bounce back when life hits harder than expected from your point of view, my friend?
So this will be critical for most of the men because life will become mostly overwhelming for men, and they need to bounce back. First, what they need to do is they need to accept the reality of the situation, what is happening. And one thing they should do is like they should not disappointment, or they should not fear, or they should not frustrate because of the experiences that are getting in. Because I saw one of the news earlier, like today is different, today is difficult, tomorrow is much more difficult, and day after tomorrow will be happy. So I just got some good quote from one of the people. So for those kind of things, we should be, everything is a learning for everyone. If some days might be bad, some days might be good. So we need to get into some kind of isolation where we can have certain amount of supportive people around.
I
At the
agree.
same, we need to set some goals on our side as well to raise the confidence, and we need to distract ourselves from different situations, and we need to change the routines basically by doing the physical and emotional health as well, because that is very important for a man. And based on the challenges, right, everyone will have challenges every time, so everyone needs to become uh, they need to overcome all these different kind of difficulties. So this may require more time, but we should not take any kind of pressure. and with kind of more support, right, and self compassion, men can rise more on the hardest setbacks as well, whatever they fall in.
I agree, Dr. Sajesh, and I would just add as well, learning from your experiences, as in if you've made a mistake or if something's happened or something. Let's say your business has failed. I'm sure Brandon's had that. I've had that. I mean, I'm sure all of us have had that at some point. Bouncing back is learning from what you did wrong, learning from that, and then improving on that and making sure that you don't make those same mistakes again. And then the second thing I will say as well is definitely mentors are fantastic, advisors are fantastic, and also meditation too. If you need to have clear your mind, as I like to say, meditation is a fantastic way to do that. And it also helped me a lot in the past too. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Dr. Sajesh, and those are some of the things which I think can help men bounce back harder than expected. And there's a lot of other things which I could add to that. But again, we have minimal time. So I want to get to the next question, which is what helps a man to overcome challenges of life to peace? Very interesting question, because this is what something that men generally do value is peace of mind, right? We like to have peace. We like to, sit in our not sit in our rooms, maybe not necessarily that, but sit at your computer, sit on your phone, get on with what work you want to do, or be able to, focus on something that you want to build, whether that's, chopping wood or whatever you want to do. So let's bring in, sorry, where were we before? Because all the layout of people have changed now. That's it, Cedric. We were with you last time, so Cedric will bring into this conversation. And then Dr. Jen will go over to you after, because I'm very curious to hear your opinion. I really like your opinions, Dr. Jen, as well. So I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. But let's start with yourself, Cedric. What helps a man to overcome challenges of life to peace?
I mean, I think that starts with a grounding. Whether that's you believe in God, higher power, you got to have something to lean into, right? I think there needs to be some type of belief, and then I mean, honestly, just kind of building even on what some of the previous speakers said. One of the things that we haven't explicitly said is therapy. Like, I want to name that because when we talk about building community, we talk about dealing with challenges, addressing certain things, navigating. A lot of those tools you may not necessarily have for whatever reason, based on your upbringing or whatever, but you can access those, of course, in these different spaces, right? With a professional, with somebody who, knows better, even outside of your general circle, right? Like I have a great group of who I call brothers, but even within that, they don't necessarily have the same tools that my therapist has, right? To be able to offer me to navigate a lot of these challenges and overcome. And I think ultimately where I found peace mostly is essentially leading into gratitude. And just I once heard that if you're still here, you're undefeated against bad days. So being able to settle in that, and another thing that my therapist also kind of helped me with as well in the midst of these challenges, because the storms are going to come, being able to actually sit in that and feel the emotions, go through the emotion, like don't run away from it, because it's going to catch you anyway. So just understanding that, it's the kind of this too shall pass mentality. But at the same time, just knowing that, you number one, you don't have to do it alone. And at the same time, realizing that like everybody goes through challenges, everybody goes through things, like we're all kind of stuck into ourselves, and this is what I got going on. This is, the worst thing that's happening to me. But also just reflecting on times where you've had challenges in the past and realizing like, oh, well, I did make it through that. Right. Yeah. So maybe there is, some sense of hope to say that I can get through this too. But yeah, I think leaning into just a lot of those things, and we can get caught up in work and purpose and all that type of stuff. But I think, again, that's kind of straying away from the core of it. And you can kind of get distracted by those things and not necessarily realizing like that you need to face some of these things head on, and go through it, like sit through it, feel it, and think about like, how do I feel right now? Right. Get in tune with yourself. Because through that you can, find the peace and say, okay, well, it's, I can handle this. It's not so bad. It's not that terrible. And then map it out. Right. If you're more logical.
No, I do agree. Yeah. It's, I think there's many ways which men deal with things for sure. And I think that's a great way to be able to deal with it, because, the last thing you want to be doing is bottling it up and then, lashing out, or, you go out and, I know some people like to drink, for example. I'm not one of them, but, some people go out to drink to cope, or some people go out and do drugs to cope and all this sort of stuff, which is a whole nother different lane. But I completely agree with saying, Cedric, handling it the way that you just said, perfect way to do it. Dr. Jen, what helps a man to overcome challenges of life to peace from your point of view?
I mean, I would probably first say, like, what does this idea of to peace even mean? I think a lot of problems occur where people think the absence of conflict is harmony. They think the absence of conflict is peace, and that is completely not true. So what happens is they get into relationships and they're like, this woman isn't my peace, because she's expecting more of you, because she's holding your feet to the fire, because she's asking you to keep the house clean and do all these things. And so this idea of peace, I'm like, what does that even mean? Because to me, what helps a man overcome challenges is that, like Cedric said, therapy. If so many men don't believe in therapy, it's a detriment to them mentally, physically, and all that. It's a detriment to the relationships. There are people in therapy because men didn't want to get therapy. Bottom line. I think that also when we talk about, like, this question is really weird, because it's like, what does it mean to peace? Peace doesn't exist without conflict. You can't have harmony without conflict. And I think a lot of people have been told this lie that if there's conflict in relationships, the relationship shouldn't go on. If you don't have conflict between two random individuals trying to build a life together or have a friendship together, you're doing yourself a disservice, because it means someone's not talking. So to me, I think, like, when we talk about this idea of what helps a man overcome challenges is knowing other people went through them, that you're going to get through them eventually. You have to just figure out how and what that looks like. But I think to peace, you're setting people up for failure if they think that they're going to overcome challenge to peace. It's just not going to happen. So how do we think about that in a different way?
Paolo, I want to bring you on this. Just to quickly. I could see you, like, I don't know, just what are your thoughts quickly?
Quickly, yeah. I often tell clients when I'm having this conversation about happiness, joy, peace, and said, what do you think victory means when you are victorious in life? Victory is the result of a massive battle. You didn't die. And maybe somebody took the shot and you made it. Or at the end of the day, victory means you went through a battle. In the same way, peace it's an inside job, just like happiness is an inside job. And I love what Dr. Jen was saying, that you cannot have a relationship without conflict. You cannot have life without conflict, but not from a negative perspective. Think in terms of a gym. If you want to have a fitter, healthier body, if you want to have a fitter, healthier mind, you need to exercise that. You need to question certain behaviors and certain beliefs that are holding you back, that are keeping you unaccountable, are keeping you lazy, are keeping you conformed. So conflict is life's way of pushing us to grow. Now, am I going to blame the world? Am I going to blame people? Am I going to blame circumstances? Or am I going to look at life and say, life is happening for me, not to me? I find peace when I work on myself and I look for the resources, for the help to achieve that. So that's why I love doing what I do, because it's so amazing to work with people and see the transformational process. Peace is an inside job, and it happens with overcoming conflicts, overcoming the negative and wrong beliefs.
Could also, like, I just kind of want to give like a different angle, most probably.
Sure.
Could peace potentially be like, the fact is that you want to focus on the main battle, and rather than having many side battles going on at the side and taking you off your main course, that you want to be able to focus on the main battle that you need to battle? For example, let's say, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, finish your thought. Sorry.
No, so what I'm saying is the main battle. Let's say the main battle is you want to build a business and you want to get it to $1 million in revenue, for example. Well, if I want to focus on that and be able to get $1 million in revenue, but then I've got other people like distracting me. I don't know, maybe they're friends of yours are trying to ring you up and say, come out and drink with us or whatever, all this sort of stuff. Could peace maybe be that your main focus on what you're focusing on is the piece that you've been able to accomplish what you want to accomplish or do in life?
100%. I love your question. We live in a world that is competing for our attention 100% all the time. And there are two important things that we need to understand and assimilate is that we are the average of the people we surround ourselves with. So am I in an environment that is toxic in a sense that is keeping me under a critical perspective all the time? Or am I in an environment that is toxic from the perspective of it's never pushing me to grow, to focus? I just surround myself with people that keep me distracted from the life I don't want. Or do I have around me a group of people that push me towards achieving the goals I want? The second thing is keep the central thing central. We need to understand priorities. I deal with a lot of clients that they're trying to learn to manage life better. They want to manage personal and professional life better. There is no such a thing of balance between life and work. You are one person, just different hats. So you need to learn to prioritize better. What is that you want to achieve? And then put your energy on it and focus on it. So I agree with you 100%. Less distractions, trying to avoid life. Peace is achieved. And it's an old phrase back from philosophy from Lacan that says happiness is the realization of a job well done. Peace is when you know you're living on purpose. You're doing what you are called to do, and you're doing that. Doing well or not so well, it's a process. Like Cedric said, this too shall pass. We're going to learn.
I've got to jump in, Paolo. I'm sorry, but we have literally run out of time. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you so much to each and every panelist on here. Make sure you go and follow them on LinkedIn and connect with them. It's been an amazing roundtable discussion. It's been so great. I did want to do one last question, which I wanted to get each of you involved, but we just literally, like I said, ran out of time. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Christopher, for your stories. Paolo, for your stories. Dr. Jen, for your inspiration, insights.
Pleasure.
Cedric, for your experience. Thank you, every one of you. James, and also Dr. Sajesh. Thank you, all of you. And that is it for this roundtable discussion. And up next, we're going to have our next roundtable discussion. And of course, the GatherVerse Health Summit is sponsored by Pico. And that's it. Over to you, GatherVerse team. See you later. Bye.
Hi everyone, I'm Sabrina Princessa Wang, futurist, entrepreneur, and someone who probably spends way too much time thinking about where humanity is heading next. Now, I'll be honest up front, I'm not a doctor and I'm definitely not here to teach anyone about pro-state exams. What I'm here for is this: to talk about how emerging technologies, especially AI, are shaping the way men actually access, engage with, and experience healthcare. Men's health isn't just a medical issue, it's a behavioral one, a cultural one, and increasingly a technological one. We know the stats. Globally, men seek help later, internalize more stress, and often only address their health when something breaks. Not because they don't care, but because the system around them weren't built with their behavior in mind. And that's where technology becomes powerful, not because it replaces doctors, but because it redesigns the pathway to care. In the last few years, we've seen something interesting. Wearables quietly track stress and recovery. AI-driven diagnostics detecting risks long before symptoms show. Telehealth is reducing stigma and geographical barriers. Community-based digital platforms are helping men talk about things they usually keep quiet about. None of these tools solve everything, but they do something equally important. They make health easier to start, less intimidating, and more accessible to men across continents. As someone who lives and breathes AI, I've seen how technology can support human well-being in many ways that don't feel clinical or cold. AI can be a mirror reflecting patterns we might not notice, a guide helping us make better decisions, and sometimes an entry point, especially for people who struggle with vulnerability. And while my focus is usually on AI for business, productivity, and automation, what I've learned is this. When people feel supported, when systems feel less overwhelming, healthier behavior naturally follows. And that is absolutely a men's health issue. So yes, emerging technologies are impressive, but the future of men's health won't be defined by algorithms. It will be defined by how human those systems feel. If men around the world can access care that is personalized, private, culturally aware, stigma-free, and available regardless of geography, then technology has done its job. The goal isn't to make healthcare more high-tech. The goal is to make it more human. As we gather here from every continent, my hope is simple. That we use technology not just to innovate, but to include. Not just to predict disease, but to prevent silence. And not just to extend life, but to improve the quality of it. Thank you, and may our gathering be well.
About 25 years ago, I had an affliction called an anal fissure. It's essentially a tear on your rectum. Every morning, there's a possibility that you could disrupt it, which is extremely painful. I didn't know if I'd ever make it. It took 2 years for me to get healed. I had to transform myself. I became a new person. I had a different diet, activities. I drank more water. I ate more fiber. I had a new awareness as well. I made it through, but I had to do it almost alone. And I think this is probably indicative of the way many men experience health in this world. We go through it alone. We may follow some influencers here and there, or maybe we talk to ChatGPT, but all in all, we're doing it on our own for the most part. My inquiry for today is to ask, would it be more beneficial if those of us who had a specific condition were able to find each other and to support each other through the experience? I believe it would be. I probably would have got better sooner, quicker. This issue, this affliction, this condition that I had speaks to a big missing feature of humanity. That is, we don't have a shared intellectual space. There was nowhere 25 years ago for me to go and find people who are going through the same thing as I was. And it still doesn't exist now. Why is that? Well, people coming together and having deep conversations, collaboration, coordination around ideas that interest them is anathema to today's web. It's not set up that way. It's actually set up for us all to be consumers of information and for us to be stuck in information silos. And that fragmentation prevents us from having a shared intellectual space. Now, this is obviously not a new idea. In the 1960s, computing pioneer Douglas Engelbart, inventor of the mouse, video conferencing, collaborative editing, and many other things that we think of as personal computing, Douglas Engelbart said that we would soon have planetary problems and that we would need planetary solutions. And his idea for computing was collaborative computing. That never came to pass. His mission was for us to increase our collective IQ, which he said was a measure of how well people can work together on important challenges, how quickly and intelligently they can anticipate or respond to a situation, leveraging their collective perception, memory, insight, vision, planning, reasoning, foresight, and experience into applicable knowledge. Collective IQ is ultimately a measure of human effectiveness. And he believed that we could use bootstrapping, whereby we build tools that extend our capabilities such that we're able to build new tools that further extend our capabilities. And we create a virtuous cycle where humanity's fitness increases over time. Now, obviously, we could use that now, right? Doug's idea is all about a shared intellectual space. And the good news is that there is such a space emerging now. We call it the meta layer. It is a civic trust layer above the web, above web pages. People, information, and interactions have a presence above pieces of content that they are related to. You can imagine in the future that today's web page, which right now is the end-all be-all, becomes the conceptual footprint for worlds of information, interactions, transactions, and experiences that emanate from pieces of content on the page. If we had that, we could have communities of men who are going through the same things, who have similar conditions or afflictions, and they could go to a web page, and if they decided to be visible on that web page, they could see everyone else within their community who's on that web page at the same time. And they can also have a chat that's available to all those people in their community and that will stay there at the web page. We call this the overweb. And the actual product that I'm talking about is called Canopy. But the big idea is I would like to invite you to co-create this layer with us. There's a group of us called the Meta Layer Infrastructure SIG. SIG means Special Interest Group. We run the Meta Layer Initiative, and we are setting forth the design patterns and the substrate of code that will enable anyone to create communities, applications, and smart tags that live in this space above the webpage. So please visit themetalayer.org to find out more and to find out how you can be part of shaping the next level of the internet.
Hello. My name is Thomas R. Wilson. I am the owner and operator of R&H Creative Advocacy and Storytelling, LLC. A lot of my work centers around advocacy, writing, storytelling, mental health work within the community. And today, especially for this Men's Mental Health Summit, one of the things I really want to emphasize today is in this day and age where technology is available in one way or another around the world, and yet seemingly men have a harder time accessing mental health care than ever, I really want to emphasize when we utilize technology, it must be seen as a tool. Not just a tool like a hoe might be in a garden or a tractor might be on a farm, but a tool for us to better advocate for ourselves, a tool for us to seek and continue and endure through our mental health journey. And at the same time, it is a tool that is a passport to a mission to a better life. So often men are seen as the provider, the caretaker, the individual who must endure and must continue on no matter what. But what I am here to say is, take time to breathe, take time to rest, take time to honor yourself and explore your journey at the pace you need. But additionally, please, please, please utilize your tools at your disposal for the benefit of your own well-being. You are a vital and important part of this world. No matter how much you must carry on for those in your life, you must carry on for yourself. You must lift yourself up and use technology and AI in a healthy and conducive manner. This world is special because you are here. This world is here because of people like you, securing and benefiting a future for all people. But at the same time, when you use AI or you use technology, please make sure that you are enduring and utilizing these tools with compassion and empathy. And for those of us who are creating technology, please know it is vital and so important that we develop technology for the betterment of humanity, right? We have to think about women, children, men, all around, so that our tools can be used properly. And yes, humanity is always going to misuse a tool, but when we as leaders, as thought leaders, as developers, whatever it is, if we put forward a mission of empathy and grace, not just for women and children, but for men, because men are also very important, we can create a pathway forward. And for us men, you know, the world is a scary place, and it's okay to have those big emotions. It's okay to fall backwards and to stumble. But at the same time, for the sake of the people we love, for the sake of ourselves, please remember that technology has its own faults. It has weaknesses, but it can also be a teaching mechanism for us to live our best life. So what I urge you to do today is, if you need help, seek someone. If you need support, rely on someone that you can trust. At the same time, if you're using technology to benefit your community, please mindfully use it to benefit yourself as well. There is no other you in this world. There is no other strength like yours, and that may falter, that may be weak from time to time. But through the use of tools and technology and the people around you, you can secure a brighter future, and you can empower yourself to better care for others and yourself. Just please use it mindfully. With that, I will make sure all my links and comments and things are in the chat if you so want to continue this conversation, continue this discussion on mental health. I thank you, and I thank you for listening to me, and I thank you for taking one more bold step to your own mental wellness. With that, have a great day, and goodbye.
All right. I want to welcome everyone. I want to welcome everyone across the globe. This is an international platform, if you did not know. And I want to welcome everyone to this very, very, very important conversation on health and balance in our complex world. If you do not know, my name is Grant McGaw. I'm the CEO of 5-Star BDM, and I am the host of the Follow Brand podcast. And I am honored to moderate today's roundtable, which is titled Busier Than Ever Before, Finding Health Balance in a Complicated World. You know, we live in a world where being busy is often celebrated, but in the rush to do more, achieve more, and push further, what is really being left behind? So we want to talk about that. We want to unpack some of this. We'll explore what happens when busyness becomes identity and how to tell the difference between productivity and purpose, and what our habits, are secretly harming our very own well-being. So I would like to introduce our panel, get everybody situated, and get everyone introduced before we begin. So, Derek, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Grant. So, listen, when I was a young boy, the superpower that I wanted to have was to be invisible. I wanted to be invisible for a number of reasons. You know, sit in the back of the classroom, not be called upon by the teacher, eavesdrop on conversations that my parents were having when they kicked me out of the room. But fast forward today, and the superpower that I'd like to think that I have is actually to be visible for the right reasons. In fact, to be seen, heard, and remembered. And that's what I do. I help my clients, whether they're professionals or they sit on the board of directors or they are students, to be seen, to be heard, and to be remembered for the right reasons. And particularly when it comes to men and how we navigate this world of ours. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
I'm glad you are here. Now, where are you located?
I am located in Nairobi, Kenya. It is, what, 9:30 in the evening. I have participated in 4 men's international events. This is my 5th, but I love talking about how men can be the better version of themselves, or the favorite version of themselves, as I like to say.
That is excellent. Thank you for being here. Joanne, we'd like to come over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Joanne Ewing. I am working with women entrepreneurs to create a stronger and better life. And as I've been traveling that road, I've realized that men and women aren't really that different. We have different problems that we're dealing with in our life, but we all have these issues. So how do we get through these issues, and how do we work together? And one of the biggest things that I see is what was stated already earlier about how there's so much pressure on a man's shoulders to be able to be a provider, to be a supporter, to be a fixer, to be the stability. We put so much on men, and we don't realize how we can support and help each other, because we really can complement each other versus working against each other. And I feel like in our society, there's so much pull against supporting each other versus the divide that we have with each other. And that's my mission, is to help that coming together and supporting each other, and being able to realize that my story isn't just my story, it's my past. And I don't have to claim the story, and I don't have to be divided, but that I can work together. And that's my passion, is to help. I mainly work with women to be able to change their mindset and to create a life of stability. But the more that I've been working with women, the more that I have been seeing how needed it is in the community of the men's world as well, and how important it is for men to take a breath and realize that they're human beings, and that you're supposed to be here, and you are beautiful, and that you are very much needed, and that we can be supporters of each other.
I love that. I love that. And Joanne, where are you located?
I'm in California.
Gotta like sunny California.
Yep.
Gotta love that. Gotta love that. Let's go over to Ambassador Terry Earthwind Nichols. Would you like to introduce yourself?
To be here, Grant. Thank you and for the invite. I'm chair of Evolutionary Healer LLC. We are a global performance transformation company with clients and practitioners on 6 continents, 13 countries, 27 U.S. states. We're out there. We do business in 5 languages, so we help a lot of people all over the world with various different things, from repetitive behaviors like self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, PTSD, those types of things. We find an amnesic memory in early childhood with a specific question and answer sequence that releases those repetitive behaviors for their clients. And it's quite interesting work. We also do performance transformation work, help people in the health and wellness world start their business, get a brand, point of view. We do all those types of things. We train people to become practitioners of repetitive behavior, cellular regression. And my wife heads up a division where a person can write a book and self-publish it in 30 days with her help, and sell that book at the back of the room. When you're speaking, there's nothing better than a little piece of paper back in the back that tells your story. So those are the different things that we do. Men's health is a big deal for me and has been all my life. When I was in my 20s, I was invincible. I could do anything, go anywhere, eat anything, drink anything, party all night, do all those kinds of things. But when I hit my 50s, things started to change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my 70s and I don't do any of that anymore. So,
and where are you located?
Yeah, it's great to be 72, but it requires a little bit of change.
Yeah, of course. No, I was asking, where are you located now?
Asheville, North Carolina.
North Carolina. All right. That is wonderful. Thank you for joining us. And then we have Anjanson. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. From it's evening already. It's 10:30 p.m. So I'm from Mauritius. Well, I'm a part of the GCI community. I'm a member, a post local vice president in the community service, and I'm also a coach, a public speaker, and a trainer in soft skills to university students and exactly to women entrepreneurs. Why I have joined this summit as men health here in Mauritius. We don't talk much about men health. It's like it's getting on here, but we need to talk more about it. And I want to like share my opinion how it is in Mauritius and share some insight about men's health. As a youngster, I'm a young professional, so it's very important to break this taboo. I can say so. Thank you.
No, very much so. And what did you say where you're physically located right now?
In Mauritius, it is in a small island in Indian Ocean.
Indonesia?
No, Mauritius, Indian Ocean. It's a
Indian
small
Ocean.
island in the Indian Ocean. Yes.
Wow, that is so interesting. So
Yes,
we
yes,
have a
yes.
great collective of people from all over the world. And we want to,
Exactly.
this is going to be an open discussion. And I encourage the audience that is listening in, you can comment whether you're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, to help us with this discussion. Because as you all said earlier, as men, we don't always voice our health concerns or what is happening because perhaps we may feel more vulnerable, things of this nature. This is an open discussion. It's an opportunity to change the narrative when it comes to that. And this first question, I'm going to bring it over to Terry because I think this might be in your zone of genius. Now, you work with leaders who have made some profound internal changes. So the question is, when being busy becomes an identity, what are the unseen costs of doing that?
We become, in my experience, both myself and working with my clients, we are so focused on being seen and heard, we can't see or hear ourselves. And now what does that mean? It means that we lose who we are. We lose our identity. We lose that center place that is so necessary for good health, mental and physical. And we start to make calls based on what would people think rather than what's the right thing for me. Because I often have quoted of saying, you cannot give what you do not have. Ask anybody that's been married 3 or 4 times. If you don't love yourself, you can't give love. If you don't respect yourself, you can't give respect. And whatever you do give out is inauthentic and it won't last. And pretty soon you're not seen whether you like it or not. And that's a precipice when I'm working with chief executives and senior politicians around the world. That's some of the first things that we work on is getting that identity with self. Love yourself first. That's not selfish. That is keeping your soul center connected to you. And that's very important.
I think you're exactly right in understanding the priorities, because if you're not operating on all cylinders, then how are you going to help someone else to operate on all cylinders? Some things to take advantage of. Now, all of our panelists, if you wish to chime in on these particular questions, please do. Just raise your hand, get my attention, say, ooh, I really want to chime in on that. And she raises her hand. So, Joanne, what would you like to give us some knowledge?
Busy is not a personality trait. It's a mechanism that we use, right? It's something that we believe that we have to do. And I love what you had said about, it's an avoidance of really getting to know who you are as a person. And that's something that all of us tend to do. Women do the same thing because we've become disconnected from who we are, or we're not taking the time to explore who we are. And we're always evolving. We're not the same person all the time. So when you're not connected, then you're staying busy because you're not wanting to blend the two together. And it's really important that we slow down and take the breath and understand who we are as we're developing and changing and evolving, so we can learn more about who we are. Because what I was a year ago is not what I am today. None of us are. And so it's giving ourselves the time to accept who we are now, and know that each day we're evolving and changing more, and giving ourselves permission to do that and the acceptance to do that. Don't avoid who you are. Get to know who you are from the deep inside self, and then share that. But I know for men, for women too, but it feels like it's more so with men being able to open up and express the fullness of who they are, because it's going to make them in some way look like something that they've put in. And I don't know about you, but I create a lot of stories in my own mind that aren't truth. And so that is a lot of what's happening as well with men as well, of being able to really embrace that part of who they are and explore deeper and allow to come out more of who they truly are.
I have to agree. Instead of someone asking me, how do you feel? Like, well, what do I think about that? I don't want to talk about how I feel. Expressing of feelings can be a little bit, intimidating. I think sometimes to males, to men, because it shows, a different part of yourself that you may not be that adept at it, or you're ready to express. You're not very good at it. I've noticed that just raising kids. My daughter was very good expressing feelings, and then my sons, they just weren't that well. It's just like you have to train yourself to do that. I think that's something we need to work on. I want to go over to Anjansen, because in this question number 2, we have to ask ourselves, what fails first when the sense of identity is based on output? Now, Anjansen, with your global work in mental health, how does the pressure to perform impact someone else's sense of self, in your humble opinion?
I think that what's very first about the identity is that we don't, as men, we don't really accept our true potential. If we accept our true potential that we can do something in life, we will definitely put it. But sometimes there's the pressure of the society that we have to overperform also, and we tend to be discouraged as we go on in our professional life, even in our personal life. So I think that is where the output becomes like we say we are not productive, if I can say so, and the sense of identity can tend to change as in the course of our life, because when we are a student, we have other objectives in life, we have other things in life. When we are a married man, we have other objectives, and then as we grow up in our professional life, we become more like we have top level management our responsibility towards our co-workers is very important. So we have to be firm in our decisions, but also fair. So as men, if we are leading a male-dominated company, you will all agree with me that it is very difficult because it's like we need to impose ourselves. So this is where our identity can be if I can say, challenged
Mm.
by other people in the society, in other people in the company also. Thank you.
I think you're right. We have to look at these narratives, the paradigms. Do you feel comfortable speaking in certain situations? Are we taking into consideration the total scope of as an individual, as a human being, and not just something that we've decided as their persona and how they should act? And all those things are very important. I'm going to go over to Derek. And when I see you, I see that you are your coach. You've been doing a lot of different things. Based on this conversation that we're having now and what you're seeing and what you're looking through, we want to get into some resilience, some strategy, some motivation, things that men can use to maintain their health while pursuing their goals. So in your world, are there some real life habits that you've seen or that we should probably utilize to balance our health?
Absolutely. In fact, as I mentioned, I've been literally talking all day about some of these things. And to me, I like to keep things simple. I have, shall we say, a 6-pronged strategy or maybe a 5-pronged strategy that I've been really, pressing with, particularly with my clients. And it starts with number 1, your physical health, exercise. Physicality equals mentality. And I'm sure myself and Ambassador Terry can have that conversation about how you are able to live your best life at your age and how activities, particularly physical activities and exercise, play into that. For me, number 2 is sleep. That has become a non-negotiable priority. And as far as this topic is concerned, this is something that is absolutely going to help you in terms of focus, to be purpose-driven, to be able to be productive. I mean, the list is endless. Third on that list, I have mindfulness. So we were just talking earlier about being busy and about how we are scared to be still. So for me, particularly mindfulness, some form of mindfulness practice, being still, taking time out to just sit with myself, to be still, put everything away, all of the devices, is so important in this busy and hyper-competitive world that we live in. And then let me just round up and give you 4. My 4th one is boundaries. And that is creating certain boundaries, whether they're literally physical boundaries or boundaries in terms of things that are non-negotiables in terms of the work that we do. So, for example, no emails after a certain time or no phone calls, or being able to take time off to drop off the kids in the mornings instead of having to come into work. So I think starting with some of those basics can certainly help us in terms of what we're talking about and the mental health, particularly of men in this world.
These are all important things. And we want to drive in there because we've been talking now 15, 20 minutes. And I want to get, what I call the elephant in the room. And I want all 4 of you to kind of like chime in on this as, the men, and I just speak about myself, right? Myself, like going to the doctor, looking at my whole health, makeup, whether it's my mental health, my social health, my physical health, that I often do put it on the back burner. I'm like, going to the doctor is like scheduling the appointment and sitting down. And then even if you go to the doctor and then they give you some pills and that kind of thing, then do you take the pills? Do you really take the advice? I know my father always said, well, just put some dirt on it. So I just put some dirt on it and then I'm going to be okay. But that's kind of, it's kind of like, you take care of yourself. There's nothing really wrong with you. We heard this throughout this this GatherVerse this week, that we sometimes put on a persona that as men we are these super beings. We don't get hurt, and if we do get hurt, we're going to heal very quickly. We are in a male-dominated world, like even in sports. So you hear somebody gets hurt, like, well, when are they going to come back and be able to play again? Like the guy just broke his arm or he broke his leg. I mean, give him some time, and before he can operate at that optimal performance that we would love to see, he has to go through a healing period. Talk to us about that mindset that we have, that monolithic mindset that probably is not helping us. Who wants to jump in on that?
I'll jump in. Mindset is very important because we're raised in certain beliefs. We think certain ways based on society. We don't realize that we have control over what we do. And I know one of the things that is difficult for men to do is to do the meditation, to do the sitting and the breathing, to do the time out in a day. How many days do you go a full day without taking a microsecond to just breathe, or to make the stock of whatever it is that you're going through, or how you're feeling, or what you're experiencing? And so mindset is something that we're given, but it's set in stone. We can always change it. What we think we create. How we look at something is how we're going to act to it. So if we can go back and realize that we have control over that there's simple things that we can do to help, because your body is a machine. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take care of your body, your mind goes along with your body. So you have to take care of that machine every day. You have to make sure that you're putting yourself first at times, which I know is very difficult for you to do a lot. But it's very important to do that and make sure that you're oiling that machine, that you're exercising that machine, that you're hydrating that machine, that you're feeding that machine. And like was said, that you're giving that machine rest, and you're giving that machine the permission to be a human being.
Yes.
Grant, can I just jump in really quickly? I think also part of this conversation is, as men, and I can't speak for the men in America or in Mauritius. I can speak for the men in this part of the world, in East Africa, where we don't have those communities where we can create these spaces for men where we're not being judged, we're not being measured. It's not about the car that you're driving, but it's about where we can get together and slow down without sort of looking weak. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And these communities where we can just sort of sit, rest, and reflect. And I'm not talking about going to the Busier, as we say here in Kenya, very popular practice, but just sitting there and being with ourselves. And then, of course, ultimately being vulnerable, sharing our stories, checking in with us genuinely, and holding a space for us to express ourselves without having somebody to jump in and fix it.
We got to contemplate on these things, really take these into consideration. So what I'm feeling here is that, are we having a problem being able to tell a difference between purpose-driven and then fear-driven motivation? Maybe it's because I don't want to go to the doctor and get bad news, that I was like, you know what? I'd rather not go over there and get this news. And even if I do get this news, it'll just go to bad or different. Am I going to do anything about it? I think these are very important things as we start thinking about this. So that question to all of you would be, how can men tell the difference between purpose-driven and then fear-driven motivation in your experiences?
Well, for me, and in my research and my work, working with both men and women with PTSD and other repetitive behaviors, and with me, is, we set goals. Goals are made to miss, not to make. And when we miss them, we beat ourselves up about it, rather than taking a philosophy of, well, for me, 1 minute long plank 3 different times a day. Some days I don't do any, some days I get all 3, and I don't worry about any variable in there anymore. And I don't beat myself up for it. It's like, okay, so you didn't do it. So next time it's time to do it, you're going to be more motivated because you're present. Presence is the point where manifestation becomes action. When you presently think about something, you're taking away the angst of the past and the fear of the future. You have presence. And when you're in a present state, you're able to make more consistent decisions for yourself and stay away from adverse decision making. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I think we're starting to unpack and get somewhere and give some things that are very important. Now, I'm a John. And in talking about this, are there habits that, sometimes we do these things, they appear to be productive, but they're really counterproductive. But because they appear productive, we keep doing that. But but it's not getting us anywhere. How do you combat that in your world?
Well, I think that here we are a small island and we have to be like to prove ourselves. So what I would like to share is that we need to find what's really our purpose, to define it. Is it to bring some film out to the world, to give like a gift, or to be like to proving something to yourself first before proving something to the world? So I think to be productive, it's to use your time to bring something valuable to yourself and to people around you without being counterproductive. So without diverging against your objectives or your goals in life. So you have to be your productivity and your goals must be aligned so that you come with a true purpose. Like something I would say that today we are here to talk about men and we have a lady with us, Joanne. We are breaking a taboo because we are bringing a woman inside the world and to talk about it and to make her the woman around us to discover what our emotions are suppressing and what we want to talk and to express ourselves, to let our partner to listen to it. And this can be productive also. It's totally not counterproductive, but it's productive. Thank you.
No, I like that. I would like Joanne to kind of, how do you feel about that? And this happens a lot. You'll be perhaps the only woman in the room in a male-dominated world, whether it's the boardroom or whatnot. You feel these things. Do you feel men can be vulnerable around women or not?
I think it depends on the man. It depends on what the background was of that man. I feel like, when you're talking about being in the present, it's about, I'm going to go to the feelings because that's what I am as a woman. And I know it's hard you've made comments about me making that assumption or that connection. But if you really think about it, if you're on your life's path, then you feel it in your body. And if you can take the time to stop and feel what you're experiencing, then you know if you're living in your purpose or if you're not. You're going to feel that you're fighting against something when you're not living in your purpose or if you're going astray. Or you're going to feel more at ease and life goes a lot easier for you, right? Doors open for you when you're living your life purpose. So to answer your question, it's very interesting. And part of my first angst was I work with women. I don't work with men. But when I was going through that contemplation is what and I'm working with a coach right now, helping me with my speaking. And we've been speaking a lot about his experience from a man's point of view in our time together. And it's really helped me to understand the differences between a man and a woman, but also the similarities that we have and that we can work together and that we can, I think once we strip down all of our past beliefs, all of our past history, all of our past experiences, and just meet each other as we are equally together, then we realize we don't have that many differences, that we all feel the same, that we all react the same, that we experience life the same. It's how we're perceiving it that makes it different. And that perceiving it is coming from our life experiences. And if we can stop that divide, again, I'm going to keep going back to that because it's so real. Yeah. And we realize that we aren't that much different, then we can make this world a better place, because we're not fighting each other, having to earn my, I got to earn my keep as a woman. I actually ran a plumbing business for 35 years. That was not a women's world, but it was a successful plumbing business. I did it, and it was about the lessons that I learned through that also helped me to go back to my intuition, to go back into stripping away my old beliefs in my past and reconnecting back to who I am. So it's really an individual thing, and how you as a human being want to go through life, and whether you want to be open to, we can be together, work together. Just imagine if our world did that, if our world just dropped all of that angst against one another, and that we could see that we're all the same and that we can work together, how much more beautiful it would be.
I love that. I love that. I see the audience has chimed in on that. Salvation has stated a space of expression. That's where we're looking. How can we express ourselves? Which leads us to this next question, which is around mindfulness, right? What daily practice, intentional practices are essential for achieving a peaceful mindset? How do we get there and maintain it? Derek, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I mean, for me, peace isn't about, it's not about escaping life. It's about creating these moments of or pockets of stability, if you will, throughout the day or throughout the week. And a few things help. I mentioned a few earlier, but just to add on to that, moving a little every day, walking my dog, doing some form of activity. When I breathing deliberately, inhaling, and then thinking about that. And then as I exhale with a particular count, so that I am very intentional with the breath that I'm taking in, for example. Other practices, like gratitude practice, writing things down that I am grateful for, that I am thankful for. And doing that obviously in some form of a journal. So that includes journaling as well. Setting intentions, for example, and could be just one intention for that day. And then checking in with yourself at the end of the day. And then some other practical things like, not reaching for my phone first thing in the morning. So those little things that I do are what bring me that sort of internal peace and those pockets of peace or stability.
I like that. I want to go to Ambassador Terry, because you've had a storied life, 72 years of living. How do you get to a peaceful mindset?
Start out there. Start your day by making your bed. Now think about that. First thing you do is set a positive intention and create something that's a win for your mindset before you even leave the room. If you've ever been in the military, you can't walk out of your room until you've made your bed. Non-negotiable. There's a mindset about that. It's about being present. And like I said earlier, presence is a point where manifestation becomes action. And as simple as making your bed sounds, it's almost laughable. It does set a mindset for success, okay? Because you've already done something. And before you even make your coffee, be present that you're making the coffee and enjoy that first sip. It's not like, okay, let's get going. It's, oh, good job. Mindset shifts the way the day is going to happen. Now, things are going to go wrong. Things are going to go right. And you're going to learn from them. That's just the way it is. We're emotional beings. So the crap will hit the fan sometimes, and other times you can't get away from all of the accolades and pats on the back. It's just like crazy, but that's all part of it. And the simplicity of a conscious to do before you start your day is just simply make your bed. And it has worked for me for a very long time. All of my clients consciously make their beds now. Never been in the military, never been anywhere where they really have to worry about making their bed. They usually have a spouse that makes the bed or whatever. And for some of my guys, they got house cleaners who make the bed. But they make their bed now because that's a win for them. That is something they can take with them for the day. Hey, I got something done already. I'm ready to do something. Where's my toothbrush? Let's get going. Okay.
That is so beautiful that you're intentional about that. In my own life, I have to do a spiritual exercise each morning, meaning I'm going to play a very natural sound, whether it's going to be an ocean current, it's going to be birds twittering, it's going to be something like that. It puts me in a positive frame of mind before I even start my day for at least 20 minutes. And I'm going to just place myself there. And then I can begin to gauge where it may be, because that's my spiritual food for the day, my armor, let's say, that I'm going to need. Because as you said, you never know what you're going to go through for the rest of the day. But I'm going to start off intentionally in a positive frame of mind. I see Joanne over there smiling. Did you want to chime in on that?
I have a lot to say about a lot of things. You know, I know that it's hard a lot of times for you to stop and slow down, but meditation doesn't have to be a specific way. You don't have to be singing the ums and crossing your legs. It's just going within and connecting back to your higher self. It's going back to the breath and connecting back to your body. And that calms you down and gives you that center to be able to connect back to who you are. So the breath and meditation just are so important to peace of mind, because then you're ready to move forward. You're not out there in the crazy land and kind of disjointed and disconnected. It really does help to ground you back into who you are. And again, doing it without judgment of who you are, just allowing, like what you were saying, Ambassador Terry, about just being present in everything you do, which we don't tend to do in our life. We're so busy going from this appointment to that client, to this job, to that thing I have to do next. And we forget that we need to just go back to the center. And if you just do that a couple of times a day, it really does help you to get through the day.
I believe now he's got Anjan's son lives on an island. So when I get this, I think of an island and he's out there and it's just this beautiful paradise. And every day is very peaceful. Am I wrong or am I right? Or what are you doing intentionally every day?
Yes, I think that for me personally, to keep my mind peaceful, it would be to do some writing. And I often share some positive posts or whatever comes to my mind. I post it on my social media just to make people around me come aware or take a reflection about it. If it can be like someday I can write something and post it, it's my feeling, and I see that some people are connecting with it. It's a way of releasing the tension. And to be peaceful with you, it's also to accept that some days things are not going as planned, but we still have to go on, because if we don't go on, who else will? Who else will give us this helping hand? It's only us. So I think it's like listening to your inner voice and listen to what he or she has to tell you, and then just align yourself and go on with your day and find something like meaningful for yourself. It can be like having a small chat with a friend, or writing something, or watching a small video just to boost up things. So it's like that. Thank you.
I like that. I like that. Thank you so much. I'm going to go over to Derek, because I think this is important, especially for all our men who are tuning in. How do men handle guilt when they stop to rest. Is that a problem in your experience?
Guilt when they stop to rest. I think deep down we believe productivity equals worth.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, resting keeps your brain sharp. It regulates your emotions. So I don't think that I'm trying to find the words that we need to feel guilty as men when we are resting. I think because for a lot of us, and I'm just trying to think this through, we're taught that rest is a reward, not a requirement. And so I think that's where the guilt maybe comes from. But, as men, we can't lead, we can't provide, we can't support if we are exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And so rest to me is sort of part of the job, right? And once we sort of flip that switch, reframe that story we're telling ourselves, that and start looking as rest as part of maintenance, that self-care that we need to have as men, and it's not a weakness, then maybe that guilt begins to dissipate or begins to fade.
Very important now to take into consideration all these things. And when we look at this, we are a GatherVerse community, and we are an international community. And we need to understand what ways can a community encourage men to take a moment to pause and breathe. And I'm going to ask Joanne, because she seems to be someone who sees in both worlds, whether it's the men perspective or the female perspective. You kind of understand whether us men probably need some community encouragement. If you would be so kind to kind of lean into that, and then I'd like to hear from each of you before we conclude.
So I really feel that the main thing that we have to do, like I've said, is change the way we look at life, change the way we look at each other, and learn from one another. To answer your question, I really feel it's all about us not attaching to other people's ideas or feelings. Like if we could just go back into who we are and be okay with that and live in integrity with that, then everything else works itself out. I'm sure I'm not answering your question because I'm going on a different tangent. I can feel.
We just want to know from the community practice, but here's the deal, and we've heard this probably throughout the day, is that we need a safe space. We need to understand that we can't just solve it ourselves as men. Sometimes we try to go on and do it and take this hero role. We're going to just do it ourselves. But yet there is a community that we can get community support. And I feel that sometimes we don't do that because either we feel vulnerable, we feel like it's a sign of weakness and blah, blah, blah. But there are communities that can help.
I was thinking about the comment about getting, I don't remember who said that, about having an area or a group or a situation where men and women can actually work together and talk together, a community where we can drop our whatever facades that we have, and that we can get to know each other and help each other without this sexual divide. And I know that's impossible, but there's got to be a way to build that bridge between men and women, because like I said in the beginning of this, one of my biggest, I think, transformations through my experience in life is that we're not that different. We really are not, but we've created these differences based on experiences or ideas or beliefs. So how can we bridge that together and know that we can be a supporter and a helper of each other, instead of having, I'm going to have this role and you're going to have this role and you're responsible for that, and instead of a community and working together in peace and harmony.
Let's take that to heart. I'll give 30 seconds to each one of our other panelists here, and then we'll have to conclude. So we're going to go with Ambassador Terry. What would you like to leave us with?
Take the moment, pause, and breathe. moment, 30 seconds, and your world changes. Okay. It's the stopping of the energy that you're forcing and allowing it. Once it's allowed, then things start changing immediately. And thanks for having me today.
Oh, well, I love that. Breathe. I like that. Derek, what are you going to leave us with?
Don't try and reinvent your life in one go. All the panelists have talked about practices, things that you can do. Just put a little bit of that in your toolbox in terms of making yourself that better version of yourself. Start with the fundamentals: movement, making your bed, finding a community of people with shared values. And then from there, you will see big changes in your life.
I love it. Anna John, what are you going to leave us with?
I think that to break the norms, to break the barriers, and to why not create like men's circle where men can express themselves with men, and then to educate men to be more compassionate towards its counterpart. It's very important about it.
Thank you.
To have a listening ear. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you. Our gather has been well. Just one thing I'll leave everyone with: go see your doctor. Men, go see your doctor. Go see your mental health therapist. Do not sleep on that. You don't want to find out later that you are in a disease state that you don't want to be in. So go do that. I want to thank everybody again. May our gather was well. I want to thank GatherVerse for having us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're coming to the conclusion of we're here at the conclusion of our day one GatherVerse Men's Health Summit. Go see your doctor. Safe space, comfortable in community, building community, men. We don't have to do this alone. We cannot do this alone. There was so much that was just unpacked right now. And these series that we have when it comes to women's health and men's health are typically very unconventional for what we focus on. But I know that so many people find so much value in what's being expressed and said, because there's simply just not a tremendous amount of platforms at this intersection of technology and humanity that focus on these specific subjects and these topics of health and wellness. And we've always been advocates of wellness here at GatherVerse. Our very second summit, now that we're in our 35th Global Summit, our second summit was based on mental wellness, because it's just so important to us. I know it's been important to me. Today, I felt like a student, as I remain. And I'm really thankful for everyone that came to be able to spend some time with us. We're thankful to our sponsors, Pico, for seeing this moment, for being such an incredible technology platform that yet you still take time to be able to help fund events like this to allow us to keep the lights on, invite everyone to be able to attend for free. To this day, we've never charged anyone, and we prefer to keep it that way always. And thank you, all of you that are at GatherVerse.live that are with us till the very end. We really appreciate, and we hear from you often. We get so many messages from you, so many shares from you, and so we're thankful, and we're just really appreciative to be afforded this opportunity. We do not take it for granted, and we know that the holidays are coming up for many different people. We hope that you're keeping happy, safe, and healthy, and that the words that were expressed today, that you'll take time to be able to connect with different folks that were here, and these experts that were here and that shared and took some of their time, and time that none of us get back. We hope that you'll find some value and to say that it was good to be here, to be able to spend time with us. Lastly, I'll close out is that we have our day 2 coming up tomorrow. We certainly hope that you'll join us for that. And we have so many other different summits to close out the year when we deal with the subject of food and nourishment, and we deal with harvesting and dealing with money and currency and digital currencies and crypto assets and on-chain trust. We're going to be covering a lot of that. We have a lot of speakers that are arriving from that. And then to close out the year, we have our GatherVerse Book Summit, and such an intimate, that's going to be a very intimate gathering, talking about where we are in the current and future state of authorship and originality and human expression and the preservation therein. So we have so many things that are coming up, including the kickoff in the new year, our She Summit 2026, which may, I think, be our biggest summit we've ever hosted. We'll see. And then our AI Summit, and then our 5th annual GatherVerse GV26 Summit, a host of other different platforms, and a host of different summits, and a lot of announcements that are coming up. So with that said, thank you for your time. We hope that you will tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell a colleague, tell a stranger that men and women alike assembled at a place called GatherVerse in a small measured span of time, and together we spoke and expressed on so many things that are essential, not just technology, but humanity first. Thank you so much. Our gather was well. Take care.
Well, I got one foot on the platform. Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know